Hello there. I didn't even do the little intro thing. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Night Live, or what is actually today, it's Saturday Night Live because I don't do Saturday morning streams, although it's still morning for some of you, including, well, technically it's morning for me. It's 11:50 Central Time. But hey, so apparently we're about to see a White House press briefing. They're running a little bit late. It was supposed to start at the half past the hour. And so right now, all you're seeing on the screen is that. But anyway, you have to go to the channel to find the stream. Yeah, I noticed that YouTube's having a little trouble with our subscription system. And apparently some live streams don't show up in a lot of people's feed. That's why I'm now doing the notifications via Twitter too. If you're either on Twitter, Minds or Gabs, you can find me right down there, right over there, right down there. It's kind of down there, at PDawg Night, and you'll be able to find me. So anyway, so we're having this press briefing coming up, and as we wait with bated breath. Now I noticed some of the other there's other places that are showing this besides the White House feed. The reason I'm going to show you the White House feed is so that I don't get any more commentary from the news people, and possibly get this taken down. Usually when we use the White House feed for these things, it seems to work out. I'm not sure why they're so far behind though. They started streaming 37 minutes ago, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, let's say hi to who's here. Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you live. Chi-Town Jay, who gets the bell, who came in first. Good morning, Mike Savage, Augusto Pinochet, Jay Wolf, Rolling Bear, Mike, I said Mike Savage, and Augusto Pinochet, and Tyler F. If you would all be so kind again, you're going to want to, or if you can help me out, and if you're on Twitter or on social media, hit the share arrow down there, or retweet what I put out for the stream. Because again, YouTube is having some, I don't know if it's glitches or if it's on purpose, or if you mention anything that has to do with coronavirus. I don't know what it is. And personally, I don't care. I just I want the damn notifications to go out. And so, we'll figure it out. But if you do that for me, that would be fantastic. Also, make sure you hit the like if you like what we do. And I'm not so concerned. I'm not promoting super chats as much now because I know everyone's in a little bit of a pinch, I would guess. Well, I don't know if you're in a pinch or not, but don't make that a priority. I mean, if it happens, great. I appreciate it, but right now, I'll try to keep up with the chat a little more, and we'll do well. So anyway, we can kill some time while we're waiting for the White House to start. Although what's interesting now, let me open another window here, because a lot of the news stations are showing the kind of what happens previous to the. Ooh, I wonder what that is. What's going on prior to the press conference, just when they come in and sit down and they're talking to the press, and they have the press all spread out 2 or 3 or 4 seats apart. You're going to notice this when we go live on the stream. And then also they didn't let every newsletter outlet in there, and some of the people are in there complaining to the the people who get them prepped for the press conference. They're complaining, well, why did you let these people in? And she was explaining to them that it's because we're trying to practice social distancing, and so we can't have the entire press room filled. So we're going to bring in enough people in here who are going to ask a wide variety of questions. Everyone will be able to watch it on their monitors wherever they are. And y'all stupid press people, get over it, because people have been asking some just, I don't want to say asinine questions, but there have been, as you know, yesterday was a big kerfluffle because the president was a little bit terse with a particular reporter, and everyone mentioning it on Twitter seems to have taken a very limited section of the video, so where it looks like the president's reacting to a single question that on its own could have possibly been reasonable. Problem with that is when you take into the series of questions that the same reporter was asking the president, basically asking the president that, you know what, we shouldn't be being hopeful about any of the new drugs they're testing. We shouldn't be being hopeful. Why is it you have this? Why do you have to have this such, rose-colored glasses picture of what's going on? And I'm like, and that annoyed the president. And then he comes back with another question. The president kind of snaps at him and says, "I'm moving on because you're just a terrible reporter, and I this line of questioning, we're done with this. Let's go answer some real questions. Because, how are you going to reassure the American people that you're giving this false sense of hope and yada, yada, yada?" Have you been sitting through this press conference, sir? Why do you think we do this every day? We have experts. It's not just me talking. The president should have said. Now, what the president should have said is, you know what? We're having a press conference every day. That's what we're saying to the American people. But, Trump's not, Trump's a jackass, and that's okay. I'm glad he told that reporter off and just stop pressing stupid questions. It's almost as though all these people who are asking questions, all these press people, are they coming in there with an agenda, or are they really coming in there to inform the American people? No, they're coming in with an agenda. What's fascinating to me too, there's one type of question that we haven't heard from these reporters that have been kind of a staple for the last, prior to this 3 years, the prior 8 years. And here's the type of question I'm going to add. Mr. President, how are you holding up, sir? Are you doing okay? Have you been able to get some sleep? Have you been able to find the right kind of rest? Notice never any of those questions. And people were chirping at Trump the other day because when he was on the call with the governors, and the governors were talking, they had the whole team in this room, and they had the governors on a teleconference. And the governors were asking questions, but the camera was on Trump the whole time during this teleconference. And some other people were answering some of the questions because the experts also were asking the questions. And so there was a time when the question was for one of the experts, and Trump's on TV, and he's dozing off a little bit, and people are trashing him because he calls Joe Biden Sleepy Joe. Oh, you call Joe Biden Sleepy Joe. Now, I'm thinking to myself, oh, well, they're going to have the president. Perhaps, just perhaps, the president's probably not getting a lot of sleep during this whole crisis. I'm sure that he's probably had people coming after questions for him pretty constantly. By the way, looks like the White House feed is coming up, so I'm going to put this on the screen. Now, there's no sound yet, and then looks like comes the people who are coming in for the press conference. So hopefully we'll have some sound here in a second. It doesn't look like they've turned on the White House sound yet. Looks like I see Dr. Fossey, Ben Carson. I'm not familiar with everybody on the stage. And okay, here we go. All right, let's just watch this. I may pause it here and there because if I hear a dumb question, I might try to answer it myself. Kind of looks like they fixed the notification and broke the subs function. Yeah, YouTube needs to fix their shit. All right, I'm going to turn this up a little bit. Hopefully we'll hear some people. So the woman right here, you can see my cursor here. That's the woman who was explaining to the press why they weren't letting everybody in the room. And they assigned seats, and notice they have them all far apart. She said, Oh. Now I can't hear it very well. They don't have it up very loud. Okay, I can't hear what she's telling the press, but I appreciate this feed because I don't have to listen to any commentators talk over and tell us what they think. I don't really care what the commentators think. I don't want to hear commentators from ABC or CBS or CNN or MSNBC or Fox News or OANN. I don't want to hear any of them. I want to listen, and I'm going to listen, and I'm going to think what my thoughts are when I hear these questions and answers. All right, so here we go.
Good morning.
Well, thank you very much.
We'll see if we're getting new information today.
We're going to be going over to the Hill, and we're having a lot of meetings. And from the financial, this is a medical situation, not a financial situation. Financial, though, is moving along very nicely. I want to thank you for being here and update you on the progress we've made after a week of extraordinary mobilization in our war against the virus. Governors, mayors, the businesses, charities, and citizens are all working with urgency and speed toward one common goal, which is saving American lives. We're in communication with foreign countries. It's now at 148 foreign countries. Can you believe that? 100, you talk about a spread, you talk about a violent spread, 148 countries.
Now, he has the number wrong. Maybe that's the number of countries they're working with. It's 173 countries where the virus has been found now.
Not even believable. There's been a week of national action and of great national solidarity. People are getting along. We're getting along with Republicans and Democrats and independents and liberals and conservatives, and actually it's a very nice thing to see. We're all
Unless
one beautiful
Twitter.
big American family, and that's taking place right now. Last night I approved a major disaster declaration for the state of New York. Worked very closely with Governor Cuomo, and this is the first time in our nation's history that a president's used the Stafford Act to declare a major disaster in response to a public health crisis. Never happened before. I'm considering other areas where we may or may not be doing that, and I'm working very closely with Gavin Newsom, governor of California, and others. We may be doing the same thing depending on their needs, depending on what they're asking for. It's been unprecedented action in New York, and we've had a tremendous federal response all over the country. And I want to at our northern and southern borders to halt the entry of the Chinese virus while continuing trade and commerce. And we've had very good talks. With Prime Minister Trudeau, and today, this morning, with President Lopez Obrador. And we talked about joint measures that we're taking to prevent the spread of the virus in our countries and to temporarily suspend non-essential travel. We had a great conversation this morning, President of Mexico, and our close cooperation with Mexico and Canada will keep our people healthy, keep their people healthy, keep everybody safe. Yesterday, I had a call with 12,000 small businesses, representatives of these businesses. That's the engine of our country. People don't realize that. You know, you read all about the big ones, but these small business, when you add them up together, are really the engine, economic engine of our country. And I assured them that my administration is doing everything within its very considerable power, frankly, to support them and their employees. Nobody's ever done what we've done. Likewise, I had calls during the week with all sorts of representatives and systems like the hospital system. We spoke to many of the hospital systems throughout the country, nurses and doctors, representatives representing hundreds of thousands of nurses and doctors, airlines and cruise ship companies, the Business Roundtable, which was fully attended, and it's all of the top CEOs of of our country and beyond, frankly. The businessmen of really, these are world-styled businessmen. These are businessmen that control the biggest companies in the world. Many of them have taken hits, and many of them are just, going forward. Their businesses have been great. Some have been very badly affected. Some haven't been affected at all, and frankly, some are doing very well. They continue to do very well. It's Walmart, as an example, has been really helpful to us. Doug McMillan, head of Walmart, really helpful to us, and I guess I assume they're doing pretty well because people are certainly buying more than even a clip at Christmas by substantial numbers. Pretty amazing, but they're doing incredibly. They put on tremendous extra staff. You don't have empty shelves. A lot of things have happened that are very good. Restaurants, fast food executives, grocery stores, all retailers, literally all of them, in groups. And we spoke with the G7 leaders at length, as you know. You probably know about that. Spoke to many of the governors, spoke to almost all of the governors at conference calls and many of the governors individually. And very importantly, the religious leaders. We had a great conversation yesterday, the Vice President and myself, with the religious leaders of our country, many of the religious leaders, and we've had a number of them during the course of the last 2 weeks, actually. But yesterday we had a very significant call with the religious leaders of our country. I signed legislation providing American workers with paid sick leave and paid family medical leave at no cost to employers, and free testing for those who need it. The testing is going very well, and the Admiral will speak to that along with Tony. We're working quickly to pass additional legislation that will provide massive relief to small businesses and affected industries and give direct payments to our great workers and hardworking American families. There's never been anything like we're doing on the Hill right now. They're negotiating. Mitch McConnell, Chuck Schumer, they're all up there. Kevin McCarthy and Nancy Pelosi. They're all negotiating, and everybody's working hard, and they want to get to a solution that's the right solution. I think we're getting very close. We've also announced that we've moved tax day from April 15th to July 15th, which is a big deal, giving businesses and individuals extra time to file and pay without interest or penalties. So we've moved the date way back, and so it'll be July 15th instead of your traditional April 15th. And very importantly, you will have a lot of time, but you're not going to have interest penalties or any kind of penalties by filing at that later date. HUD announced that foreclosures and evictions are suspended for single-family homeowners with FHA-insured mortgages for the next 60 days. And our great head of HUD, who's with us today, Ben Carson's going to say a few words in a moment. The Department of Education will not enforce standardized testing, which is another big deal, requirements for students in elementary through high school for the current school year. Not fair to do that. So we are waiving that. I would imagine it's probably the first time ever that's been waived, but I think it's only fair to the students and to the parents of the students. It is also waiving interest and other things that we're discussing right now on federally held student loans, and directed that borrowers be allowed to suspend their student loan payments without penalty for at least 60 days. And we'll be talking about student loans, going to help the students. They're under a great burden right now, so we will be talking about that further, but we're waiving during the 60-day period various elements and very important elements on student loans, big subject. I signed an executive order invoking the Defense Production Act, as you all know, giving us powerful new authorities to help states, cities, and hospitals procure needed supplies. There's been a clear call to action to the private sector, and the call is made right here. It's been really pretty amazing what's happened with the private sector. They are really in sixth gear, I think, which has responded in full force, helping to produce and supply much-needed masks, swabs, sanitizers, ventilators, and everything else. There's a move on that's incredible right now. And by way of example, Hanes, everybody knows Hanes, great company, great consumer cotton products company, is retrofitting its manufacturing capabilities in large sections of their plants to produce masks. And they're in that process right now. And in my direction, the FDA has taken rapid steps to make these items available for medical use right now. I mean, most excitingly to me is what the FDA has done in order to get possibly a very successful number. It's not just one or two, number of therapeutics, medicines that can help people that are already sick, help people not get sick. And obviously, you know about the vaccine, and Tony will discuss that a little bit later, but the vaccine is moving along. But this is something that right now, this is what we really, it's incredible. And what the FDA has done, and Dr. Stephen Hahn, who's highly respected, came as just a highly respected man. He's been fantastic. He's only been here for a couple of months, and he's gotten thrown into the swim of it, and he's really standing up. But the FDA has really moved mountains. I said it this morning. They moved mountains to get approvals on things that maybe work. We'll find out very soon. It won't take long. An example of the Pernod Ricard, which is this is really an example where we're repurposing alcohol. They went out and repurposed their alcohol production capabilities in Arkansas, Kentucky, Texas, and West Virginia to make hand sanitizer. That's a big difference. And they've been unbelievable. They really have. Pernod Ricard. Their first delivery will be on Tuesday. It's going to go to various states. They're going to start, I think, in New York, and they're going to work their way around. They're making a tremendous amount of hand sanitizer at a very high level, too, by the way. We've activated the National Response Coordination Center to level 1. That's your highest level. This is the nerve center of all of our government response to crisis, and it's coordinating very closely with our nation's governors. Many of you were at the call yesterday with the governors, and I think you can see the relationship, and we've had numerous calls with governors, by the way, but the relationships are pretty amazing. They're loving what we're doing, and the coordination between the federal government and the governors, states, and even local has been pretty incredible. FEMA Administrator Pete Gaynor, who is with us, will soon be providing you with an update on the center's operations, and FEMA's been incredible. We got them involved last week, very much involved, and now they're involved nationwide. We've dramatically expanded telehealth so Americans can see a doctor without leaving home, something which more and more people are using, and now they're really using it, and now the ones that are using it are loving it. And I think we're going to change the way our country functions medically and probably in other ways because of what's going on right now. This will reduce the chance of infection and preserve hospital capacity, so it solves a lot of problems. Every American has a role to play in defending our nation from this invisible, horrible enemy. It really is. It's an invisible enemy. And we will be successful, very successful, hopefully very much sooner than people would even think. So we say stay at home and save lives. There's a time of shared national sacrifice, but it's also a time to treasure our loved ones and to take stock of what is most important, our faith, our families, our neighbors, and our great country. And I want to thank all of the incredible people of our country, the citizens of our country, that what you've done and the way you're responding has just been very special, something that we will never forget, that the history books will never forget. And we're going to have a great victory. We're going to be celebrating a great victory in the not-too-distant future. And I just want to thank everybody. And now I'll introduce our Vice President, Mike Pence, who's led the task force. And I will tell you this, he has not slept much, maybe a tiny bit, maybe a little bit, but not much. And he's done an incredible job. Mike, thank you. Please.
Good afternoon, all. And thank you, Mr. President. The White House Coronavirus Task Force met today. We briefed the President on our latest recommendations. We continue at the President's direction to lead not a whole of government approach, but a whole of America approach. You just heard the President describe one inspiring story after another, the way the American people are responding, the way American businesses are responding, religious communities across this country. The American people are coming together. They're responding with common sense, compassion, and generosity. People are heeding the advice of state and local authorities, and tens of millions of Americans are putting into practice 15 days to slow the spread. We are officially, Mr. President, 6 days into our 15 days. And as we look all across this country, while we strongly support the decisions that governors in states where we have significant outbreak have taken, we encourage every American to listen to those state and local authorities. For every American, this is what you can do to make a difference over the next week and a few days to protect your health, protect your family's health, but most especially slow the spread and the potential for the coronavirus to impact the most vulnerable. As the President said, we've been
Sorry, guys.
We've almost been overwhelmed at the outpouring of support from American businesses. The President spoke yesterday to thousands of small businesses. We spoke to manufacturers yesterday. And in fact, as the President indicated, the FDA in record time just approved one manufacturer that will be producing millions of surgical masks in a matter of weeks for the American people. The pastors we spoke to, we want to thank all the religious leaders from every community of faith in the country, making the hard choice to suspend services, to have online services, even while those ministries are continuing to support food banks and come alongside the most vulnerable. And of course, the chorus of prayers that is coming up from communities of faith around the country is making the difference that it always has in the life of this nation. One thing the President and I promised was to remind people that on the weekends that you're not in the pews, it's still a good idea to, if you can, to go ahead and make that donation, because all the ministries are continuing to play a vital role in our communities, and we encourage your continued support. The President and I are grateful that the American people are listening to state and local authorities and putting into practice all of the recommendations in the President's coronavirus guidelines. As you will hear in just a few moments from Admiral Gua, testing.
God damn it. All right, sorry, guys. We'll fix that.
Across the country. And as you will hear detailed this morning, now more than 195,000 Americans and more who have been symptomatic have been tested. That number does not include county hospitals or healthcare labs around the nation, some 15,000 in number. And among the number of the more than 195,000 that have been tested, it's important to remember that only 19,343 at this moment have tested positive for the coronavirus. We continue to urge state and local health authorities to contact FEMA for all the latest developments and innovations in testing. But we want to remind Americans, as Dr. Fauci will emphasize in a moment, if you don't have symptoms, don't do a test. It is another way that the American people can make sure that we are preserving the resources that our healthcare workers need to minister and to support those who are dealing with the coronavirus and other illnesses. In a moment, Pete Gaynor will detail the efforts at FEMA. Since the President's national emergency declaration, we have FEMA in the lead, stood up the National Response Coordination Center, as the President said, and we are working closely, literally hour by hour, through FEMA, processing requests from states most impacted, like New York, Washington State, and California, and we'll continue to work very, very closely with those states through the very traditional means of federal emergency management at FEMA. Secretary Carlton will describe decisive actions the President alluded to bring foreclosure relief to Americans. And on the subject of supplies, in a moment you will hear of not only the progress that we're making on testing, but on Monday we'll be detailing for the American people the progress that we are making on the President's strategy of procuring more personal protective equipment and medical supplies, allocating them through the system of FEMA, and continuing to urge conservation by Americans. In fact, I'm pleased to report to the President today that HHS just placed an order for hundreds of millions of N95 masks that will be being made available to healthcare providers across the country. On behalf of the President, we do renew our call for Americans to postpone elective medical procedures, including dental services. And remember, this is another way that you're going to make sure that medical supplies are available, because by postponing elective medical procedures, you're freeing up medical supplies for those dealing with the coronavirus. As the President mentioned, our team is on Capitol Hill as we speak, working with members of Congress in both political parties. They're making progress, by all accounts, on a bipartisan bill. They worked late into the night last night, started early this morning, and we are working to pass that legislation on Monday in both the House and the Senate. Now, on a personal note, many of you may have been made aware that a member of my staff has tested positive for the coronavirus. We learned of that late yesterday. I am pleased to report that he is doing well. He had mild cold-like symptoms for about a day and a half, has not been to the White House since Monday. Neither the President nor I had direct contact with that staff person. We worked immediately with the White House physician and the CDC. We've done all contact tracing. And while the White House doctor has indicated that he has no reason to believe that I was exposed and no need to be tested, given the unique position that I have as Vice President and as the leader of the White House Coronavirus Task Force, both I and my wife will be tested for the coronavirus later this afternoon. Let me say again how grateful the President and I are that every American has acted on the President's coronavirus guidelines. We are 6 days into 15 days that, as Dr. Fauci may well reflect in a moment, is an opportunity for us here on the footholds of this epidemic curve in our country to literally lower the impact in our nation and save lives. Every American can do their part to slow the spread, and we encourage you each to continue to do that. As the President says often, remember, we're all in this together. And also remember that for most Americans, the risk of serious illness from the coronavirus remains low. The reason we want to put into practice the President's coronavirus guidelines is because no American would want to inadvertently expose someone who is vulnerable, a senior with a serious underlying health condition, to the coronavirus with a potential threat. I did hear one story this morning, Mr. President, about a senior named Geneva Wood. She actually is at the Life Care Center in Kirkland, Washington. She is not only a grandmother, she is a great-great-grandmother, 90 years young, and she tested positive for the coronavirus on March 6th. But by all accounts, she's doing well. She wanted America to know there is hope, and her strength and her enthusiasm is truly an inspiration to the nation.
I'm sure he'll get savage.
As the President said many times, we're going to get through this and come out stronger than ever before.
Positive out of these press
We'll get through
conferences.
this as Americans together. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mike. Admiral, please.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President. As I told you earlier last week, we are in the process and are effectively transitioning to large-scale testing by leveraging all the components of the American healthcare system. When we started, it was CDC only. Then it was the state public health laboratories. Now we're transitioning into the mainstream of American testing with many of the companies that the President invited in the Rose Garden just a week ago. So currently, 91 public health laboratories, state public health laboratories, are up and running in 50 states, the District of Columbia, Guam, and Puerto Rico. This is our curve, and I want to be very clear about this, that this only accounts for CDC, state public health laboratories, and the laboratories that are members of the American Clinical Laboratory Association. These are the main reference laboratories: LabCorp, Quest, Mayo, ARUP, BioReference Labs, and Sonic Healthcare. It does not account for the well over 10,000, 15,000 hospital-based labs, many of which are doing testing, for whom we will get data this week to give you an overall roll-up. As you can see, over 195,000 people in America have completed their testing. That means tests plus results. This does not count the people whose tests are in process. And as you see, this curve is going, it will continue to rise dramatically over the next period of time. So again, this is utilizing all the components of the great American healthcare system, the state and local public health laboratories, the hospital system, which is not represented here, and the main reference laboratories. Now, I do want to make it clear that although testing is becoming more available, and Dr. Fauci will definitely emphasize this more, there are priorities for testing. And clearly, everyone across the country should understand that those hospitalized or in an ICU are a priority for testing. Symptomatic healthcare workers, for obvious reasons, we want to make sure that their health is preserved and that they are not going to spread to those who may be seriously ill. Symptomatic people in long-term care facilities. As the Vice President has highlighted, and we've said many times, elderly in our society have a much higher mortality rate, much higher serious complication rate. Symptomatic individuals over 65, symptomatic individuals who have underlying conditions like chronic heart disease or liver disease or other types of chronic diseases, patients in public health investigations, and there are local priorities around the country, particularly healthcare workers for testing. And Dr. Fauci is going to emphasize this about the types of people who may not be to be tested. Testing is going well, it's ramping up, but we should still have priorities. Finally, I want to talk about the community-based testing sites. I know they're popular now because there's now an acronym, which I'm sure the Vice President doesn't appreciate, CBTS, or CBT sites. We talked about these earlier in the week, and I wanted to emphasize again that these are state-managed and locally executed. The federal government is there to provide support, know-how, blueprints on how to do this, but these are really springing up at dozens and dozens of sites all over the country, adapted to the local needs. Some are drive-throughs, some are walk-up, some are geared to healthcare workers and emergency responders. So again, what we see in the upcoming week is this curve will continue to increase as testing becomes more widely available, as the great American healthcare industry continues to increase the availability of tests and the throughput of those tests. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Admiral. Dr. Fauci, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President. What I want to do just over the next minute or so is maybe connect some of the dots of the things that you've heard today. First, the status of the dynamics of the outbreak. I mean, you all know the numbers. You've seen them. We have widespread infection, but to varying degrees throughout the country. So, for example, when you talk about the kinds of mitigation issues that we have put forth and have emphasized, just as I mentioned the other day, there are two dynamic forces that are going on at the same time. You're having the natural course of an outbreak trying to peak at a high level, and then you have the mitigation strategies which are aimed at dampening that. We've mentioned that multiple times. We often get asked, how do you know you're having an effect? Because there are two things that are going on at the same time. They may be confounding. Well, I can tell you for sure, from a public health standpoint and experience with other outbreaks, we know we are clearly having an effect, but we can't quantitate it for you accurately now, because looking forward, you'll know what the impact of the rate of these steep inclines will be. So that's why we're going to come back to you every day and keep you up to date about that. Getting with regard to the disproportionate of the response, everyone, it's right here, I'll open up the Vice President's book with his permission. This is baseline for everyone. In other words, throughout the country. But then there will be areas, and you've heard them, Washington State, California, New York City, in which the dynamics of the outbreak are clearly different and much more robust, if you want to use that word. And that's the reason why we've seen the mitigation ratcheted up in that regard. And again, hopefully, and I have confidence it will happen, you will see an impact on that. Next, getting to testing. You saw the numbers with testing. Remember, there was always an issue with testing. I think we're getting to the solution that everybody in the country is looking for. But I want to emphasize one thing that Admiral Giroir mentioned, is that not every single person in the United States needs to get tested. He gave you the priorities. I don't want to repeat them. But let me tell you one of the unintended consequences of individuals who don't need to get tested that flood the desire to get tested. Currently, and I hope we'll be able to change it and make it much less reliable on PPEs, when you go in and get tested, you are consuming personal protective equipment, masks and gowns. Those are high priority for the healthcare workers who are taking care of people who have coronavirus disease. So what we don't want to do is to have a situation where we do have disparities in availability of PPEs now, and we're working hard to correct that. But currently today, we want to make sure that the people who are taking care of people with coronavirus disease do not endanger themselves because they don't have the personal protective equipment. And then finally, one last thing was just mentioned, the Surgeon General has been pushing this. Please put off, cancel elective medical and surgical procedures. You don't want to not ever do them, but for the time being, don't do them, because they also not only consume personal protective equipment, they may also consume some of the things like ventilators that you might need. So let's pull in this together, and we will get through it. I promise you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony, very much.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President. FEMA is now leading the federal operation, or the federal response for all operations on behalf of the White House Coronavirus Task Force, who oversees this whole-of-nation response. HHS will continue to provide their expert
if you're just getting here, obviously this is the daily briefing from the White House on coronavirus, and I just want to see what kind of questions they ask. I'll pause during the question and answer sessions, but I'm going to let this part just run as its course, so that's why I'm not saying much, everybody. Thanks for being here, by the way. I appreciate you all joining me.
50 states, the District of Columbia, 5 territories, and 1 tribe are working directly with FEMA under the nationwide emergency declaration for COVID-19. In just 24 hours, we've obligated $100 million to states, territories, and tribes. A little bit about supplies. It is of the utmost importance that requests for assistance, especially for critical supplies, get routed through proper channels as soon as possible. And we ask everyone to follow the normal procedures FEMA uses in a natural disaster. There's no different procedure for the COVID-19 pandemic. But remember, you can still order supplies from your regular vendors and buy it on the open market. Buy it where you can find it. We will reimburse you. If you buy medical supplies from foreign sources, it is reimbursable. Buy America does not apply to the Stafford Act, except for Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico. If you can't buy it on the open market, make a request through the FEMA system. Requests for assistance at the local and county level should first go to states, from states to the regional FEMA offices, and then from those offices right here in D.C., where the National Response Coordination Center is open and running. We are getting requests for masks, PPE, swab sets, test site supports, ventilators, hospital capacity assessments, and many more. We are in lockstep with HHS to answer these requests, but we will do whatever is necessary to get states, tribes, territories, and others what they need. And then finally, what we are doing here in Washington, D.C., again, this is a whole-of-government response. Like all emergencies, response is most successful when it is locally executed, state-managed, and federally supported. We can't say that enough. On Thursday, our federal partners fully integrated with our National Response Coordination Center, and additionally, all 10 FEMA regions across the country have been activated. The FEMA regional administrators will continue to coordinate closely with governors, state emergency managers, state public health officials to determine the type and level of support needed to respond to this dynamic threat. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Pete. Appreciate it. Ben, please.
Well, thank you, Mr. President and Mr. Vice President, for your tireless leadership here. And I also want to thank the fellow task force members who have been working around the clock in a very patriotic way to serve their fellow Americans.
All right, let's try this now.
You know, part of the American dream is having a home. And sometimes people say, well, what does housing have to do with health? It has everything to do with health, having a safe home. And that is the reason that the President has authorized the immediate cessation of foreclosure and eviction proceedings for American citizens,
There we go.
single-family
That's what I was
forward
trying to do.
mortgages,
Okay.
as well as reverse mortgages. And as you know, FHFA has also decided to do the same thing for 60 days. And the CFPB is very happy with all of this as well. And it's really all about helping our people, recognizing that they're being severely impacted by the coronavirus. And we've also asked the various servicers of mortgage loans to exercise forbearance for anybody who's having difficulty. It is important, if you're having difficulty, to actually contact the people who have made the loan, who established the mortgage, because it doesn't happen automatically. What does happen automatically is that we cover all 8.5 million people in terms of the moratorium on foreclosures and evictions. We want also for the PHAs to be protected. HUD does not have authority to mandate that evictions can occur, but we are in contact with all the PHAs across the country and are petitioning Congress for the power to be able to actually enforce that. But the fact of the matter is most of the PHAs are run by people who actually care about other people. So we really haven't seen much of a problem there. We haven't seen much of a problem with forbearance and needing to try to force people to do it because they want to do it. People are stepping up and saying, what can we do to be helpful? As far as housing choice vouchers, Section 8 is concerned, the April vouchers will be sent out next week. In May, vouchers are already being worked on. And we're also staying in contact with all the stakeholders, the advocates for low-income housing, as well as other stakeholders to make sure that we're doing things that are most helpful to them. And additionally, we've extended the deadlines for healthcare and multifamily financial reporting requirements. And that's for over 20,000 multifamily and healthcare borrowers until April the 30th. And that provides them with a lot more flexibility to deal with the issues that they're dealing with. I also want to thank our FHA Commissioner Bryant Montgomery, as well as the FHFA Director Mark Calabria, and Kathy Kraninger, the Director of CFPB, who've all worked tirelessly with us to make this happen. What we're trying to do is bridge the gap, recognizing that it's a lot easier for us to take these measures and for Congress to take the measures that they're taking so that we don't destroy a very excellent system and have to start all over again. So for those who are worried about the money that's being spent, if you don't spend the money and deal with this now, it's going to cost a whole lot more to try to build all this up again. And as was mentioned by the President, there's been a sense of unity that we haven't seen for a long time in this country. And let's hope and pray that that
Only if you
unity
stay off
lasts
Twitter.
far beyond this crisis.
Ben, thank you very much. A few questions, please.
Mr. President, a few questions, if you don't mind, sir. If you've lost your job now, or you're worried that you're going to lose your job tomorrow, restaurant, something like that,
they
what do you
mean
want
the
people to
president?
do immediately? The second question, sir, you heard from the Vice President that he's going to be tested. Have you taken a test since last Saturday? I know you told us.
I just took one.
You just took one. How are you feeling?
I feel great.
Oh my gosh, finally someone asked him how he's
I hope I
feeling.
look good.
That's a first.
People are going to be.
Sorry, hold on one second. Yeah. So, okay, so for those people that have lost their job already, or they're worried that they're about to lose it tomorrow, what do you want them to do right now?
Well,
Sit
what they
tight.
do right now is keep receiving their paycheck, and hopefully their companies are going to be in a very strong position. We want to keep everything together because we think we're going to have a tremendous bounce back. Now, some people agree with that very strongly. Some of our top economists, they think we're going to have a once we solve the problem that we're working on, the medical problem. So we want them to keep their jobs, stay where you are, and we'll see what happens. Now, if they don't, we have unemployment, we have checks, we have a lot of things happening, a lot of very positive things. Nobody has ever done. Now, this is working with Democrats, this is Republicans and Democrats and myself working together. Nobody's ever done a package like this. It's a great package, but ideally we want them to be able to keep their jobs, keep the pay coming, and I think that's going to happen. Kelly, go ahead.
Mr. President, on your Defense Production Act power, one of the features of that is that the federal government would be able to control the output, whether it's masks or ventilators,
Right.
get it to the most areas of need, and control the pricing to keep it at a market level so it's not price
Right.
gouging. One of the things we're hearing from governors, they can't find supplies and prices have gone up. So you've talked about the act, sir, but you have not yet compelled any companies. Why not?
Because we have so many companies making so many products, every product that you mentioned, plus ventilators and everything else. We have car companies without having to use the act. If we don't have to use specifically, we have the act to use in case we need it. But we have so many things being made right now by so many, they've just stepped up. In fact, Mike Pence and I were discussing it before. We've never seen anything like it, where they are volunteering. We want to make masks, like Hanes. I brought that up as an example. General Motors, I bring that up as another.
They go on the
Ford.
open market, sir, right?
They're going to go on the open market. We want them on the open market from the standpoint of pricing.
Because the red tape of not letting them stay on the open market is tremendous. So why not let them try it first? Anyway,
Otherwise,
sorry.
it's going to be, we could be very unfairly
Direct
treated.
them to the places in greatest need.
We are directing states, and sometimes we'll be competing against states, which I don't want, and we'll drop out of the bidding. We want the states to go first. And you know, what we're doing is we're helping states. That's what we want to do. Same thing with the testing. We're helping states. We're helping states get to where they want. And we've made tremendous progress in every aspect of
This
it.
happens for a
It's
governor
happening
who needs
fast now.
equipment today.
Well, it's happening fast right now, and the governors are out there trying to get, and if they are competing with us, we immediately drop out. Please.
Mr. President, forgive me if I heard you wrong at the beginning, but you said something, we are going to be going over to the Hill. Are you going yourself to?
My people are, and I'll be staying here. I'll be in the Oval Office and various other places in the White House.
And on that matter, you're asking Congress to essentially pass a series of legislation that's going to amount to about $2 trillion, 10% of the GDP. What do you say to members in both parties who say this is too expensive, this is just too much to debate and get done in 48 hours or so? And also, have you spoken directly with Speaker Pelosi at all about any of this?
Okay, so I've spoken with, I'm not going to say who I speak with, but I've spoken with directly or indirectly everybody many, many times. We're doing very well. I think the Democrats and the Republicans are going to come up with a package that's going to be really something very special. It's going to help people. This is the first time there's ever been a case where you want people not to work. It's always, you want to create incentive to work. We're creating not an incentive not to work, but the fact is we're asking people not to work because of they have to stay away from each other. If we're going to kill this horrible hidden enemy, we have to stay away. So there's never been a thing like this in the history of the world. And other nations are doing similar things, some effectively, some not effectively. They're doing similar things. We are creating a package that's going to keep companies together, keep workers paid so they can live and sustain. We'll see what the timing is. The biggest thing we can do is get rid of the problem. The problem is exactly what we know, the medical problem. We want to have this whole incredible situation that it can start right away. Not that all these companies break up, all the workers are out of jobs, you can't put them back together, and it would take years to put them back together. Because we had the greatest economy in the history of the world until we got hit by this problem. And we can be back very, very quickly. And it's our intention to be back very, very quickly. So we're doing a package, the likes of which nobody's ever done before. I'm obviously the one that has to approve the different things and the recommendations of the different things. And like buybacks as an example, and stock buybacks, I didn't like it the first time, and this time I'm saying, you're not doing it. I don't want money to be used for that. I want money to be used for workers and for opening businesses, keeping businesses, not buybacks. And well, I am strongly recommending a buyback exclusion. You cannot buy back your stock. You can't take $1 billion of the money and just buy back your stock and increase the value. Please.
On the subject of masks, the Vice President announced HHS was ordering hundreds of millions of them. Was that order just placed today? How is that going to be distributed, and when can doctors and nurses expect to actually receive those masks?
Yeah, HHS is completing a $500 million order of N95 masks, and all of this is being coordinated through FEMA, and we are responding specifically to state requests where the needs arrive. As Dr. Fauci said, we want to make sure the people that are providing healthcare services to people who may have contracted coronavirus have the protection to keep themselves and their families healthy. But I want to emphasize the supply of so-called N95 masks has been vastly increased in the country because the president insisted that we extend liability protection to industrial masks. What all the experts told us early on was that industrial masks that are used on construction sites, the president's very familiar with from his past life, are perfectly appropriate to protect healthcare workers from respiratory illness. But they didn't have the liability protection because they weren't created for hospitals. We worked with leaders in both parties. We added that protection that runs through 2024, that now the industrial N95 masks can be purchased by hospitals, purchased by states, purchased by HHS, and distributed through our system. So we're making those available. The supply has been, as I said, vastly increased, and it was another step forward in a bipartisan accomplishment. And we're continuing to use all the kind of creative means of American industry to make sure that we're leaning into this effort, and that we do whatever it takes to make sure that our healthcare providers have the protective equipment.
We are still hearing from doctors and nurses about this shortage. When exactly can they expect to receive these masks, though?
When they get them, oh my God.
Let Pete Gaynor speak to that, because FEMA will
As
be...
fast as they can make them.
HHS is now fully integrated into FEMA, and so as the requests come in, but obviously, as I'm sure the administrator will say, they're being prioritized to those areas with the highest need. Pete?
So within the National Coordination Center, we have a supply chain task force. And in basic sense, we're trying to identify the universe of what's out there. So whether we hold it at the federal level, we hold it in the private sector, and then match that up with demand and asking people to be creative. We're asking, again, this is a shared responsibility. We're asking locals and states to do your share locally, try to take a little bit burden off of us, and then we'll prioritize those scarce resources, because every single governor across the country is looking for the exact same thing. So there's a balance, but we're examining the entire supply chain to make sure that
When will
we make
the masks start coming in?
they're out there now. So again, we want to match. We want to get out of the middle, I think.
Yeah, that's what I like to know. When will they-
So we're trying to match
there's
suppliers
some
with
stupid
demand.
people
So
on
that's what we're doing right now. It's happening today.
They can expect them today, or they're matching supply and demand today?
There's a range of requests across the country, and we're trying to match those, again, supply and demand every day.
Are you
through the task
satisfied with that?
We have a lot that already come in. A lot have already come in. I have to tell you, the throwing away of the mask, being in private business, the throwing away of the mask right away, they're thrown away. And when you hear 55 million masks were ordered, I'm saying 55 million, how could it possibly be such a number? And they say, oh, that's just a small fraction of what we need. And I said, why aren't we sanitizing masks? You know, you look at the masks, I've looked at all the different masks. Some don't lend themselves to doing that, I think, but many do. And I said, why aren't we have very good liquids for doing this, sanitizing the masks. And that's something they're starting to do more and more. They're sanitizing the masks. And I don't know if anybody would like to speak to that. You might want to discuss.
Yeah, there are some CDC guidances about how you can minimize the use of masks by different things that you could do with testing, and when you have masks, how you might reuse them, which ones you can reuse them.
Do you think there's a solution to this other than buying more masks? Do healthcare providers need to change how they're using them?
Yeah, well, there are a couple of things. One, for example, we are moving towards getting testing where you don't have to have PPE. I mean, I'm not going to tell you the day it's going to be there, but it's going to be a swab that you could stick in the nose of the person who is either infected or not, but that person doesn't need PPE, the person who's administering the test. So if you could do a self-administered test, stick it in a vial, hand it over. You don't need a mask. You don't need PPE. That's one of the things we're trying to do.
I would have liked that much better. Personally, yeah, go ahead.
May I? And this is another story about great American industry. The president and I literally heard directly from Apple that they're donating 2 million industrial masks to this effort around the country,
Yes,
and working with our administration to distribute those. And it might be a good opportunity for us to renew our call as the president and I delivered this message to businesses yesterday, manufacturers and small businesses. It's a great time to go to your storeroom, and if you have N95 masks, if you've got 100 of them, if you've got 10,000 of them, is to load them up, drive them over to your local hospital. That story is literally happening all over the country. And now with more Americans stepping away from elective surgery, including elective dental care, we're urging dentists around America to look at their supplies of N95 masks and make those available to our hospitals. But the great news is, as the president said, the American people are all doing this now. So allow me to say on behalf of the president, thank you for what you all are doing today, but we want to encourage people in business, encourage people in dentistry in particular, look at those supplies of N95 masks, pack up as many as you can spare, drop them off at your local hospital. It'll be a great service to the country.
Mr. President, I just want to read you some of what some of the doctors on the front lines of this crisis are saying.
You mean the ones that are saying good things or bad things?
These are doctors who are talking about the shortage of medical supplies that they are facing. Dr. Faiza Bucks in Kentucky says there's absolutely no way to protect myself. A surgeon in Fresno, California says we are at war with no ammo. Dr. Mel in Illinois says if this is a wartime situation,
Let's have a lot
then
of
now is the time to act. I know you're talking now about increasing production at so many of these facilities to get the masks out. But given that this is one of the wealthiest, most powerful countries in the world, should this even be happening? Shouldn't this have been resolved weeks ago?
I'll tell you the way I look at it. So many administrations preceded me. For the most part, they did very little in terms of what you're talking about. This is unprecedented. You could speak to Tony, you could speak to anybody.
This is a completely new situation that is probably we've never gone through this in my lifetime. They've never had to shut down the entire country. They probably never had. You know what? Anyway, I'll let the president speak.
This is unprecedented, or just about unprecedented.
He comes up with some anecdotal evidence of some doctors who said we can't get this here or there. Look, the immediate ramping up of all the production of these items. I know that 3M here in Minnesota is doing about what is it, 100? They're going to do 100 million a month, 100 million masks this month. But you have to start and end the production and then package it and send it out. Jesus Christ.
As time goes by, we're seeing it's really at a level that...
Part of the problem is that I wish when the president doesn't know the exact answer to a question, you would immediately defer to one of the people behind him, because sometimes he says things that end up getting contradicted and then everyone has a shit fit. And I understand that, but damn, some of these questions are pretty much people wanted to get their airtime almost. It's almost like they're asking a question to see if they can get a gotcha out of it. But I wish sometimes the president would defer.
Nobody would have believed, nobody would have thought possible that this could happen. And we are making much of this stuff now, and much of it's being delivered now. We've also gotten tremendous reviews from a lot of people that can't believe how fast it's coming. When I hear they have an order of 55 million masks, and that's just one order, that's one order out of many, and that there are many millions of masks beyond that, and I keep saying, how is it possible to use so much? But that's the way it is. And part of that is because they'll use a mask for a short period of time and they throw it. The fact is that we are doing a tremendous amount. We started with very few masks. We had some, but nothing for an event like this. And now we're making tens of millions of masks and other things. And
for example, in California, they just found a supply of 10 million masks that the state had in their emergency supply that they're just starting to distribute now. And I believe they had those during the wildfires.
And I think it's unprecedented what we've done and what we're doing. And many doctors, and I've read many doctors, they can't believe the great job that we've done. Yes,
It has been many,
Kelly,
Mr.
did you have?
President, it's been nearly 3 months since your administration learned about this virus.
Well, if you remember, I was
So
the
why
one
not
that
act sooner?
I was the one that closed the country down. I was the one that closed the, right there.
3 months, my ass. Okay, this is one of those things that these people keep saying. It's been nearly 3 months. At the end of January, the World Health Organization said that there was very little evidence of human-to-human transmission of this virus. And in fact, in the New York Times, if you go through my Twitter feed, I've been referencing this a lot lately. There's a New York Times article on January 23rd. No, there's no evidence of human-to-human transmission. They made it sound like the WHO was still making it sound like it wasn't a big deal. And then on January 30th, when they finally said, okay, we are going to declare emergency, because on January 23rd, they still hadn't declared it an emergency. On January 30th, they did declare it an emergency, and the next day, the president enacted the travel ban. So these reporters are maybe not understanding their own timelines.
That, or you don't say it too much, certainly on CNN. But I just read an article yesterday. That by closing the country down so early, very early, we saved tens of thousands and much more than that lives. So, you might want to report that too. Go ahead, Chris.
I'd just like to address that for a moment. Again, I'm an ICU physician, ran health systems, and I, first of all, want to thank everyone who's on the front line in the emergency room and the ICUs.
You saw my tweet
and the
about the drug,
hospitals.
didn't you?
I speak to my colleagues daily. We need to preserve our PPE to the degree that we can. CDC guidelines has had that. The president has talked about it. But I also want to say we are making product, as the president said, but we are also responding through the FEMA system to distribute the strategic national stockpile resources according to requests that come in. Stockpile has been distributed to many states, first orders, second orders, and on a daily basis adjudicating that. If there are shortages in your hospital system, I can't tell you of Dr. XYZ, that needs to be clearly iterated to the local emergency management.
Are you seeing those hospitals talking about the shortages?
We were on the
asking federal
phone 2
government?
nights ago or 3 nights ago with over 2,000 hospitals or hospital systems sharing best practices from Seattle, where they've been very innovative, pioneering some of these areas. When there is a shortage, they need to go through their emergency management. It goes directly up to the FEMA system, which really rocks. It really works very, very well. And then there's the distribution of the stockpile. Now, the stockpile isn't infinite. That's why it's being replaced by all the orders. But masks, supplies go out on a daily basis as they are needed and requested through the FEMA system. And I don't know, Administrator Gaynor, whether you want to add to that.
Tony, would you like to say something?
Just to reiterate what Brett said, we don't take lightly what you just read. I get the calls every night, the way you get emails. It's a serious issue. We don't want that to happen, but it is happening. You're not making things up. I know that because I'm experiencing it myself. But what you just heard about the different avenues, some of which aren't even recognized, about how you can get help through the FEMA process, in addition to the large amounts of additional PPE that's coming into the system. We hope that very, very, very soon we're not going to get those kinds of real-life difficulties.
Matter of weeks? Again,
Yeah.
it seems like there's a question about the timeline here, and even FEMA can't quite answer what the timeline is. Days, weeks.
Yeah. Sooner than weeks. It's going to be days. I would hope. We're going to try to make it days to the best possible way we can.
And again, what we're doing is we're trying to help the states get things faster. And that's what we're doing. We're implementing. And the magnitude of this, it's a tragedy. It's an absolute tragedy. But the magnitude is something that no matter who you were, no matter where you come from, nobody ever thought a thing like this could happen. You read about 1917 and you read about certain things, but you think in a modern age a thing like that could never happen. Well, it comes back. It is genius. It comes back, and it's too bad. But I think the people working on this have been incredible. The job they've done has really been incredible. But there's tremendous amounts of not only masks, of ventilators and respirators and everything you can think of. It's all being, much of it and almost, I could say all of it is being manufactured right now. Steve, please.
Yesterday, there were questions about the use of this malaria drug. Have those questions now been resolved?
Well, I don't know that resolved. I could say that it's going to be distributed. I know New York is getting, I think, 10,000 units and numerous other people. It's really, it could be the malaria drug plus the Z-Pack. But, and we're going to find out. We're going to find out. I feel, look, I feel, as the expression goes, what do we have to lose? Because, you know, I feel very good about it. Tony would feel, like
please,
he'd
someone
like
bring up the
samples
fact that
done
2
in a certain
grams
way.
can
And I
kill you.
understand that,
Somebody,
too. Many doctors agree
if
with
they
that.
bring that up,
We don't have much time. You know,
okay, I'm
a
gonna
lot
start
of
hitting
sick
the bell
people
for
right
every
now
stupid
in hospitals
question.
all over the place. And speaking with the governor, New York, Cuomo, I said, how's it look? He's got a lot of sick people. So we're going to be delivering a lot of samples to New York and other places, and we're going to find out very shortly whether or not it's going to work. I feel very confident. I mean, I've seen things that surprise me, frankly. There are, as Tony said, there are other things we're looking at, too. Vaccine, of course, is incredible, but this is more immediate. Right now, this, to me, would be the greatest thing that could happen. This would be a gift from heaven. This would be a gift from God if it works. So we're going to pray to God that it does work. It'll be a fantastic thing.
Mr. President.
Oh, that'll be a headline. Watch.
Mr. President, on the economic front, there are reports that the coronavirus is really hurting your businesses, especially your hotels.
My businesses?
Yeah,
Sure.
so is that true, and can you speak
Well,
to
I wouldn't say you're
financials?
thriving when you decide to close down your hotels and your businesses. No, I would say, but you know, I'm very underlevered and everything, so that's good. But is it?
Yes, that
hurting
is
my-
what.
yeah,
Thank
it's
you,
hurting
Chi-Town.
me, and it's hurting Hilton, and it's hurting all of the great hotel chains all over the world. It's hurting everybody. I mean, there are very few businesses that are doing well. Now, there are some that are, like as an example, the Walmarts of the world, because everybody's lined up to get things and stock up their house and this and that. But sure, it hurts my business. But
And did you or anyone in your administration talk to anyone at the Trump Organization about the potential effects of the coronavirus?
Oh, for fuck's sake!
no, I didn't speak to anybody. I speak to my sons, but I talk about the coronavirus, but not as it pertains to my business. They basically follow the rules. When they say close them down in New York, we close them down, or wherever they may be. I actually have them all over the world.
Will you no longer
And
go
when
to
they say close them down, we close them down. What, Kelly?
Will you no longer go to Mar-a-Lago or Bedminster?
Well, I have nothing planned at Mar-a-Lago, but right now I think Mar-a-Lago, I guess, I haven't even asked, but I imagine that's closed down just like a lot of other businesses in Florida, right?
Oh, here we go.
Do you expect your family company to seek government assistance? Tell us.
I don't know. I mean, I just don't know what the government assistance would be for what I have. I have hotels. Everybody knew I had hotels when I got elected. They knew I was a successful person when I got elected, so it's one of those things. I guess I get paid $450,000 a year. I give it up. I put it back into the nation. I have to, by the way, you have to designate where you want it, so I oftentimes give it to opioid, research and things.
Specifically, not you.
But as far as the hotels and everything, I mean, I have to do
Nobody
what everyone
cares
else
about
is
his
doing.
business.
I would probably decide to close things up. I think it's a good thing. You don't want people getting together. And hotels and clubs and everything, you get together. We want to beat this deal. So I have many of them, hotels, clubs, things like that, where people get together. I would think it would be a good practice to close them up. Yeah, go ahead.
God, why?
Mr. President, as you know, we've been talking a lot about masks. We've also talked about how not everyone needs to take a test. What about a temperature test? As we know, we all came into this room and got tested before we entered.
Well, I do it.
the grounds.
I do it. I have temperature tests.
Why is that cursor there?
I
It's
don't.
kinda
I
messing
didn't
me up.
ask
Hang on a
everybody
second.
here, but I wouldn't be surprised if they had temperature tests.
Should those thermometers
Otherwise, I'm going to run off the
centrally
stage.
be distributed? Should they be on a mass distribution basis too?
All right, there's got
Oh, I think they are pretty much. The easiest thing is the temperature. I think they are. I don't know. Are you learning a lot from the temperature test, Tony? Could you maybe discuss that for a second?
Yeah, I mean, they have a place. They're not infallible. I mean, there's so many ways to get around that. I mean, right now, every time, certainly here, we get Every time I go into a different room, I get my temperature taken. But we see that on the outside that some people are
I
doing
took his
that.
temperature
He did.
twice, actually.
It was very low. There is a role for it under certain circumstances. What I don't see is a massive distribution of thermometers that are going to actually have a major impact on what I showed, what we need to do.
All right.
And I say, I've seen things when Tony mentions thermometers. They aim something at your forehead, they stay this far away, boom, and they tell you what your temperature is. I said, I've never seen that before. I've learned a lot. It's incredible. Go ahead, the back corner.
Judge Pellegrino with OEM, thank you. This morning, the Washington Post ran a story suggesting
that you
delayed taking action on the virus in January and February. Dr. Fauci has indicated that your action in the Chinese travel ban helped America immensely. What do you say to the Washington Post?
Kiss my ass?
Whoever you're with. That's because I think that's such a nice question. No, I think the Washington Post covers us very inaccurately, covers me very inaccurately. I saw this story. I think it's a disgrace, but it's the Washington Post, and I guess we have to live with it. It's a very inaccurate, It's a very inaccurate story. From many people, I get a lot of credit for having closed our country very early to a very heavily infected country. China, unfortunately, China. I wish China would have told us more about what was going on in China long prior to us reading about it, even though the news isn't exactly disseminated. As you know, China.
I wish he'd bring up the World Health Organization because, again, at the end of January, the World Health Organization was still saying that this was not transmitting from human to human. There was no evidence of it, and that was in the New York Times. So I can't wait till someone talks about what the New York Times said on January 23rd.
Kicked the Washington Post out of China, and they kicked the New York Times out of China, and I guess the Wall Street Journal. That's okay. I mean, that's what they do, and I think it's a terrible thing they did. But I also think it's terrible when people write inaccurately about you, and they write inaccurately about me every single day, every single hour. And by the way, your group really, I really think, and I just say fair, not good or bad. I think you write very fairly and do very fair reports about the great job that all of us are doing, that this group behind me is doing. It's so insulting when they write phony stories that they know are fake news. Because they're not insulting me, they're insulting everybody, these incredible people that have worked so hard, so long, that are thinking about nothing other than this invisible enemy. They have done such an incredible job, and they will continue, and we're going to win, and there'll be a lot of celebration when we win. And we're going to win with as few lives lost as possible. That's the game.
January 23rd.
Win with as few lives lost as possible. It's a tough enemy. It's a tough killer.
January 23rd.
Far bigger, far more vicious than ever before. But I appreciate you saying it, because the fact that we closed so early to China, and most people, hey, look, I was called xenophobic by Sleepy Joe Biden. I was called a racist.
At this time,
by Democrats, a racist. I was a
no
racist because I decided that I didn't want to have people that could hurt our country come in. And I was pretty much in a very small group of people, I will tell you. It was a tiny little group. Most people, even that worked in the White House, disagreed with me very strongly. Saving of those many weeks was a tremendous thing. And when they keep talking about acting early, that was the ultimate act. That was the biggest act, because we didn't. And then I also closed Europe early, very early. And I took a lot of heat for that, too. But that was a good thing. Now they're doing similar things that we're doing. So I didn't act late. I acted early. I acted far before anybody thought I should be. I took tremendous criticism from the various papers, from many of the papers. So I very much appreciate the question. It might have been more of a statement than a question, but whatever it may have been, I appreciate it very much.
Mr. President, about this, so a number of the states have kind of done these different measures. We've seen California order one thing, New York, just be similar. Do you want all of the states to do one uniform?
No, they can do what they want to do. If California can get a mask sooner than we can get it for them, through all of the things we're able to do, I mean, we're going to end up with a big oversupply at some point. At some point, this is going away, and we're going to end up with a big oversupply. And you know what? In this case, that's going to be okay. But if Gavin can go out and order gowns faster, or masks, good masks faster, or other things faster, that's good. We do have a lot of, the coordination with the ships that we're sending in, as you know, the the medical ships that we're sending in, and even cruise liners. We're going to be sending in probably cruise liners into some areas, in particular California and in particular New York. But if somebody can do something faster, if they can order that mask faster than us, I want them to be able to do
Sorry
it.
about the rules, sir. So people can't leave their homes. That certain businesses. That are
We
exempt.
coordinate very much with them,
You
yes.
don't want all of those to be the same.
Well, it doesn't
nationwide.
have to be at this moment because we have places in the country where, states where they have 2 people or 3 people, and those people are in quarantine. And you can't put on them what you're putting in New York, where you do have a tremendous problem. I mean, we have large portions of the country, middle America, where, they have a few people. So it may be a time, I hope that never happens, where we need to take very drastic action. But right now, that's not in the same ballpark. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Federalism.
Day 6 into your 15 days of recommendations.
Yes.
A lot of people are following them. Some people are not.
Yeah.
Do you think the American people are doing enough right now to slow the
I
spread
think
of this
they
virus?
are, and some people are not, but I think they are. I think it's going to have a very profound effect. I mean, we'll know a little bit more on day 14 and 15, and we'll
What's the
see.
plan once we get to
Well,
the
we're
end?
going to see. We have to see what the result is. We want to flatten that out, and we're going to see what the result is. And I just want to say, I'm going to negotiate a very large transaction, and I've been negotiating it for 2 days. So I'm going to take 1 or 2 more questions, and then I'm going to leave it to Vice President Pence on the Hill, with the Hill, the various elements of the package. Steve, go ahead.
There's a number of groups are calling for the postponement or cancellation of the Olympics. Have you given him third?
No, I haven't. Look, we understand the difficulty of that, and he's a very good friend of mine. You take a look at Shinzo Abe. He's a great gentleman. He loves his country.
Sorry,
we have an
but-
incredible relation. We just finished a trade deal with them, $40 billion
This is not
trade
the
deal with
greatest
Japan.
question right now.
And Prime Minister Abe has a big decision to make. They have built one of the most beautiful venues I've ever seen. They're all ready to go. It's not late. It's not over budget. It was just done flawlessly, and it's beautiful. And they're sitting back and saying, I told him, I said, that's your decision, and it is his decision. And I know he's going to make it soon. I don't know what it's going to be, and I didn't think I should be influencing it at all. I mean, the job that Japan has done on that venue is incredible. So, I mean, there are options, obviously, including delay and maybe delay for next year, but that's totally up to them. We'll see what they do.
Since this story keeps popping up, when did you first learn that this was going to be a problem?
Oh my God.
Well, when I learned, I started doing the closing. So, probably around that time. We didn't learn much. I think you're going to ask a little bit about China responsibility. I do think that, again, I have great respect for China. I like China. I think the people of China are incredible. I have a tremendous relationship with President Xi. I wish they could have told us earlier about what was going on inside. We didn't know about it until it started coming out publicly. But I wish they could have told us earlier because we could have come up with a solution. Tony Fauci and all of the people, the talent that we have, would have loved to have had 3 or 4 months of additional time if you knew that this was going to be happening. They didn't have that time. They read about it in newspapers like everybody else. China was very secretive, okay? Very, very secretive. And that's unfortunate. With that, I have great respect for that country. I have great respect for the leader of that country and like him. He's a friend of mine. But I wish they were I wish they would have told us earlier, Steve, that they were having a problem, because they were having a big problem and they knew it. And I wish they could have given us an advance warning, because we could have had a lot of things. As an example, some of the things that we're talking about where we order them as quickly as we can. If we had a 2 or 3 month difference in time, it would have been much better. Yeah, please.
Can I follow up on that?
Yeah.
Because as you were saying, China was extremely secretive about this. Several of your advisors have been have been critical of China. Secretary Pompeo was talking about it yesterday, and he had been saying so for quite some time. So why then, on January 24th, did you tweet that China has been working very hard to contain the coronavirus, that the United States greatly appreciates their efforts and transparency?
Because
it will
it's
all
true.
work out well.
Because
Why
it's
were
true.
you-
On January
China has worked
23rd.
China has lost thousands and thousands of people.
Fuck's sake.
No, they weren't transparent. They were transparent at that time. But when we saw what
January
happened, they could have been
23rd, the
transparent
World
much
Health
earlier than they
Organization.
were.
A month after China
But
discovered
China,
the
just so
virus.
you understand,
January
China's not a
23rd.
beneficiary here. China has lost thousands and thousands of people. China has gone through hell.
January 23rd.
Over this. They've gone through hell, and I've had conversations with President Xi. I just wish they could have told us earlier. They knew they had a problem earlier. I wish they could have said that.
Are you able to share, thank you for the numbers on the testing, by the way. Are you able to share any other hard numbers on number of available tests, on number of ventilators in the federal stockpile?
No.
Well, I'm going to leave
There's
that up
50
to
fucking
Dr.
states.
Fauci
How
and
are you going to give them an
everybody else.
exact
I think
number?
the answer is we want to share them. I would imagine we want to share the numbers as Admiral. Do you want to discuss that?
500 billion masks that you cited, they're due for delivery in 18
Not
months.
billion. No, not billion.
500 million masks, excuse me, thank you.
I said, wait a minute.
The $500 million masks, they're due for delivery according to HHS within 18 months. The last number on ventilators we had was 12 to 13,000. Can you give us an updated number?
Well, there's
on that?
never been numbers like this. You know, a ventilator is a machine. It's a very complex machine. And to think that we have to order hundreds of thousands, nobody's ever heard of a thing like this. You know, when we had in the stockpile, we had thousands in a stockpile, thousands ready to go. That's a lot. All of a sudden, you need hundreds of thousands. And you're not talking about, you know, the mask is whether it's plastic or whether it's material. That's one thing. But you're talking about a very sophisticated, heavily computerized machine and delicate.
Another dumb question. I just didn't hit the bell. Here.
And you need hundreds of thousands of them. Nobody's ever heard of a thing like that. With that being said, General Motors, Ford, so many companies. I had 3 calls yesterday directly. Without having to institute like you will do this, these companies are making them right now. But to think of these numbers, it's pretty mind-boggling.
Do you have numbers to share though right now? Do you have numbers to share with us right now?
Well, Mike, go ahead, please.
You bet. Well, we've spoken a lot about masks this morning, but the president's also given the task force a priority of assessing the availability and expanding the availability of ventilators. And on Monday, we will detail some very encouraging news
hard number
for Americans. You speak about the number of 13,000. It is a little more than that we have in the national stockpile. But it's important to remember that that doesn't include the more than 100,000 ventilators that are in healthcare facilities and hospitals around America today. It doesn't include what will be produced, as the president said. We're seeing companies step forward. Manufacturers tell us that a ventilator actually isn't a very complicated piece of equipment, and many of them are literally surging forward to create more ventilators. But one of the more exciting developments in the last week, which we'll detail more on Monday, is that in the president's engagement with our healthcare community, we learned that ventilators that are currently used by anesthesiologists, that are used in outpatient clinics and in other procedures, can be converted to be used as ventilators for people struggling with the effects of the coronavirus. We've confirmed that a particular screen in that device can be changed readily. We're working with the FDA to approve that. But again, it's a great testament of the American people and our healthcare professionals that are stepping forward and bringing ideas forward that literally, as we'll document Monday, will increase the supply of ventilators by tens of thousands. But look, the president's made it clear. We want to make sure that all the incredible, courageous men and women who are serving in healthcare around America have the support they need, that our patients that are struggling with recovering from coronavirus have the equipment they need. And we'll have a lot of detail on Monday.
No, we need an exact number now.
We would have 1.4 million tests on board by the end of this week, by today. Do we have that? Can you give us the number that we have?
Let me let Admiral Goff speak to that.
Thank you.
So I'm going to answer your question and then try to persuade you to stop asking about a specific number, okay? So from March 2nd to March 14th, we have put over 10 million laboratory tests into the U.S. commercial market, and we expect that by March 28th to be well over 27 million into the market. So that answers your question, and let me tell you why it's not the right question. Not every lab can run every test. Not every test is completely self-contained. So the more important question is not how many tests are in the market. We got them in the market, but is to make sure that every segment of the market has the kind of test that they can use.
Yeah, no, we're using your numbers, trying to find out for the public if the things you've promised are happening.
Yes, they are happening. They are. We promised 1 or 4 million. There's 10 million tests in the market
And
now.
are the masks that are in the strategic reserve being deployed, Mr. Vice President?
Yes, the masks in the strategic national
So
stockpile.
it's not 13,000 anymore, it would be a lower number. Would that be fair to say?
Masks or
No, the ventilators. I'm sorry, the respirators.
You asked a different question.
We're trying to understand if
Bitch,
the things
please.
we have been told sitting through these briefings for many days are happening and getting into the hands of the healthcare providers.
You understand it. You understand it.
We're trying to
You're an
understand
intelligent woman, Kelly. You understand exactly what he's saying. And what he's saying is rather incredible because we inherited an obsolete, broken system. And when you hear the number of tests that we'll be providing and are now, it's incredible. And I've heard a lot of governors say the same thing. We took over an obsolete, broken testing system that wouldn't have worked for even a small problem, let alone one of the biggest pandemics in history. And what these gentlemen have done is incredible. I am going now to negotiate a great deal for our workers and our citizens. I'll be back tomorrow. We're probably doing this tomorrow. And if I might, I'd like to ask Vice President Pence to take over. And thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you, President Jackass, who's doing your job of being a jackass to people who are bigger jackasses than you.
President, the military has sent planes to Honduras, Morocco, and Peru to pick up Americans and bring them home who have been stranded there. But there's still a lot of other Americans who are stranded and can't get home. So does the military plan to send planes to pick those folks up? Where will those planes be going?
Ladies and gentlemen of the press, we're doing our best. We are not the genie from fucking Aladdin.
Well, we received a briefing this morning from the State Department about their efforts. And we want to be very clear. While the President has suspended all travel from Europe, including the UK and Ireland, suspended all travel, of course, from China since January, that any American who can get home can come home. They'll go through additional screening that's all been implemented and is working in an orderly way at a number of airports around the country. But there are instances, Morocco being among them, where there simply are not flights to get home. Our State Department has been working very closely with our embassies in those relevant countries. I was told this morning that all the way going back to bringing Americans back from China, that we have made individual efforts to bring home about 3,000 Americans. I think there is an ongoing effort to address that with chartered commercial flights that the government is providing. Obviously, also military transport is available, but our task force received a briefing this morning, and we would just encourage any American that's looking on from overseas, contact the local U.S. Embassy, let them know about your circumstances, and know that we're going to continue to work very diligently to get our Americans home.
All right, guys, last question. Two quick ones, education and a medication one.
Oh my God.
You guys have announced that standardized testing is essentially canceled in this country. To the tens of millions of students out there, their teachers and their parents who are sort of scratching their head wondering, well, what does that mean? Obviously, a lot of this is driven by local school districts, by the state. Is there any federal guidance on this? And if not today, could you have Secretary DeVos or somebody come and explain that?
Not necessary.
To the millions who are
You're wasting our time with another stupid
trying
question.
to figure out what exactly that means.
Well, I think it's a terrific question, and
Okay,
we
you're
will bring
generous.
Secretary
That's more than
Betsy DeVos here tomorrow or on Monday to address our efforts. The objective here was as people are embracing the President's 15 days to slow the spread, we have decisions by local school boards and local and state officials that have canceled school or suspended school for a time. And we wanted the Federal Department of Education to make it clear that the burden of standardizing testing, which back in my days as governor, I remember takes a number of days and sometimes up to a week to administer, is not going to be placed on
Sorry,
schools.
I saw it,
We'll
but
have
then
the
it just hit
Secretary
me what you
here
wrote there.
to address that very specifically, and it's a very good point on your part.
I mentioned I had a medication.
Yes,
question,
Lindsay, we have
and
to
I
think
wanted
of the
ask him while
children.
The president was here, because earlier he tweeted that there were two let me just find it, 2 certain medications that when taken together, quote, have a real chance to be one of the biggest game changers in the history of medicine, and that they should be, quote, put in use immediately. Since he's not here, I can't ask him what he meant, but I'm wondering if Dr. Fauci or the
Somebody
animal
bring
can
up that
clarify in any sense
2 ounces will kill you, or
what
2
he was
grams will
talking
kill you.
about, and whether his 74.5 million Twitter followers should be taking medical advice from him or from someone else.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
The president brought together the top pharmaceutical companies in America and in the world a number of weeks ago. And they formed a consortium to work on a range of responses, beginning with therapeutics, which for a layman like me, that just means medicine to make you feel better. They're already going to work on that. We actually think, Dr. Fauci, I think there's some sense that that our great pharmaceutical companies may actually be producing therapeutics that will give relief to Americans struggling with coronavirus as soon as this spring. We also challenge them to work together as rapidly as possible to develop a vaccine going forward. And as Dr. Fauci has indicated, we brought a vaccine to clinical trials now the better part of a week ago, the fastest time in history. Now, it's the first phase of the trials, and people should understand, as our health experts have described, that there'll be a period of as much as a year and a half before we can make those vaccines available. But as the president said at this podium, there is some anecdotal evidence that several existing medicines may have brought relief to patients struggling in China and in
using
Europe.
in China, South Korea.
And the president has tasked the
There's trials in
FDA to work
Australia
very
and
rapidly to
Germany
allow what's called
and several
off-label use
countries
for
are
those.
doing
One is a
trials on
malaria medicine. But this morning, I think the president reiterated the hopefulness that he feels about this, that because these are medications that are time-honored and tested, they've been taken for many, many years, that we want to pursue, number one, making those available if someone's doctor believes that it's appropriate. The doctor would be able to prescribe that medicine even though that's not indicated. That's called an off-label use. But the other piece is, as Dr. Fauci said, and I'll yield to him, in deploying those medicines, we're working specifically with one state to do so in a way that represents a clinical trial. So it would not just be compassionate
just said this
use,
yesterday.
which the medicines are already being used for in some jurisdictions today, but also we could study it and determine the viability of it. And in fact, we're working diligently right now with that supply chain to make sure that those medicines are available. Dr. Fauci, did you want to speak to that?
And Bayer provided 10 million
It's
free
essentially
doses.
what I said multiple times from this podium is that when you have, first of all,
Okay,
we're
hold
trying
on.
to develop de novo
I got to pause
drugs
that.
that are not yet out there, not that.
Hold on. I think Dr. Fauci just fired a shot there. Anyone else get that sense? I think this is what I've said multiple times from this podium.
Approved that ultimately would be effective. And the way you prove that is to do a randomized controlled trial to prove safety and efficacy. I'm not totally sure of what the president was referring to, but I believe he's referring to a report that used both hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin together to have some possibility of being in effect. Many of the things that you hear out there are what I had called anecdotal reports. They may be true, but they're anecdotal. So the only thing that I was saying is that if you really want to definitively know if something works, that you've got to do the kind of trial that you get the good information. The president is talking about hope for people, and it's not an unreasonable thing to hope for people. So when you have approved drugs that physicians have the option in a decision between the physician and the patient, are you going to use a drug that someone says from an anecdotal standpoint, not completely proven, but might have some effect? There are those who lean to the point of giving hope and saying, give that person the option of having access to that drug. And then you have the other group, which is my job as a scientist, to say my job is to ultimately prove, without a doubt, that a drug is not only safe, but that it actually works. Those two things are really not incompatible when you think about that, particularly when you're in an arena where you don't have anything that's proven. We went through the same sort of thing with a little bit of a different twist during the HIV/AIDS epidemic until we finally developed drugs that were absolutely knockout drugs that were safe and that were effective. But in the beginning, there was that tension about that. So you really got to have a balance. I've got to do my job as a scientist, and others have other things to do.
Great.
Mr. Vice President, question for Dr. Carson. Yeah, question for
Let me just, if I may, let me just say, I hope this morning has been informative. We will be back again tomorrow. And I hope the American people are encouraged because of the incredible whole of government approach, because of our collaboration with states. You're seeing testing expanded all across the country. That incredible public-private partnership with commercial labs is now making testing available by the tens of thousands. We're working very diligently with an incredible response from American industry to make sure that personal protective equipment, and ventilators, and all the things that our healthcare providers need to meet this moment is there. But let me just say again what every American can do today. And that is, first and foremost, heed your state and local authorities. There are individual states, California, Washington State, and at this moment, especially New York, that have issued guidance to their citizens. And as the President said, we wholly support the leadership that those governors are providing in their states. But secondly, every single American can put into practice the principles of our 15 days to slow the spread. The President's coronavirus guidelines, as I said, we're 6 days in, and the purpose of these is not because every American is at risk of serious illness. As we said before, all our experts tell us, all the data shows, that the risk of serious illness to the average American remains low. But because the coronavirus is, we think, 3 times more contagious than the flu, to slow the spread, to literally lower that curve.
I'm glad he's finishing with this.
Spare Americans around our country with being exposed to or contracting the coronavirus, or worse, every single one of us can put these principles into practice. I recommend that you go to coronavirus.gov, sit your family down, call a neighbor and a friend, support efforts in your local community to put these principles into practice. And as people all across this country continue to do just that, I just know we'll get through this, and we'll get through this together. Thank you all.
Will there be a briefing of our sources?
We'll be back here.
All right, so
Thank you, sir.
that's the press conference. Let's see if the White House shuts us off immediately. At least they're not screaming questions at him on the way out. All right, that's all they're doing. So a ton of information there from the vice president. One thing, or the president, the vice president, the whole team there. I wish the last thing, though, that Mike Pence, as he was walking out, I kind of wish he would have turned to them, looked straight in one of the reporter's eyes, and said these words.
Your life makes me sad.
That would have been appropriate. Anyway, so, so, holy shit. So, it doesn't matter what the president says. There are plenty of these people who are just going to who are going to give zero credit, going to try to force the blame, and it's all due to the politics of this crazy thing. Let's see. Breaking news: the FAA has suspending flights to New York City area and Philadelphia airports because of virus-related staffing issues. Okay, hang on now. Let's see. A blanket ground stop has been lifted. So I don't know what that means. Okay, so let's see. FAA's, okay, blanket ground stop has been lifted. I don't know what that means. Yeah, no, my pleasure as far as putting this on. I wanted to watch this presser and just see how it goes. Apparently, okay, so the FAA suspended flights 8 minutes ago, and then 1 minute ago, they decided that they're changed their minds. So the FAA lasted 7 minutes. Let me see what this says on this here. I'm going to put it on the screen if it shows up. Or is the website down? Okay, we're sorry you've reached this page because the site is currently down. I think too many people went online to see what that said. All right, never mind. Let's see here. All right, back to page 1. So I'm just gonna go now. Just for a few moments, we're gonna see what's happening here. So trending number 1 on Twitter right now. Love thy neighbor. Wow, that's heartening. Okay. I'm Canadian. My sister is driving back home from USA yesterday. I left her boxes on my porch. All vegetables, safe neighbors. Love thy neighbor. Well, I don't know what that has to do with it. Let's see here. Okay, these are people who are putting up their cash apps. Okay, good. Let's see. Please amount. I'll leave you send. If not, a retweet is great too. I'm 7 months pregnant PCA worker, and they want me to cut my hours after this week because of the virus and me being pregnant. You're gonna see a lot of that. But love thy neighbor is the hashtag, so that's good. It's trending number 1, so that's a good thing. Just filled $250 in meds and didn't get to my mom, and Pop Pharmacy let me put it on my already maxed out account, but I have no way to pay. Been to something 4 times. I don't know what that means. Yeah, I mean, if you can help somebody out, that if you're in a situation where you can help somebody out, that's fantastic. Breaking: Italy reported 793 deaths in 1 day. That's not good. Hold on, I gotta. Good morning or good afternoon. Huh? Oh. Oh, okay. Well, Lady Boomer's in the house. And eating the bacon that I left for her. I made some bacon this morning. It's really delicious. All right, let's see. Toronto Star. Interesting. 19 deaths. What's it say in the Toronto Star? COVID-19 deaths may increase day by day, but that's not where the terror lies. The true terror is mass death that could become a reality if we don't tackle climate change. Oh my God. Let's focus. Can we focus? Can we focus, Toronto Star? Oh my, I have to click this. Sorry guys. You have to, if I have to read the cancer of a headline, we're going to have to go through the cancer of an article. Okay. COVID-19 can teach us to live more intelligently. When the coronavirus catastrophe finally, I've been, you know what I've been waiting for on this? I've been waiting for the first person to tie the COVID-19 virus to climate change. But the problem is they're finding out that warmer and humid temperatures, it doesn't transmit as well in those warmer humid temperatures. So maybe we need some climate change. Anyway, when the coronavirus catastrophe finally ends, what will we have learned from it? Good lessons about citizenship, social cohesion, hygiene, and patience, but also about shamelessly venal politicians, even greater domestic abuse of women in crisis, hoarding, secret health violations that harm others, financial panic, and just plain panic. I mention this because COVID-19 is something of a test run for the worst news, which is climate change. Two McGill University professors Eric Galbraith and Ross Otto recently pointed out in the conversation total COVID-19 deaths may increase day by day, but that's not where the terror lies. The true terror is mass death. Global heating is another universal danger where the suffering will be intensely personal. Well, global heating would flatten the COVID-19 curve, wouldn't it? Or at least help stop transmissions. Okay, I'm done. I'm done. I can't do it. So let's go back to what I really wanted to mention, because I knew this was going to come up during this stupid ass press conference, and I don't want to say it. The press conference, you know what? Okay, I'm not going to say it's stupid. I think it's fantastic that the team that is working on this constantly does their presentation every day. And I've heard a lot of people on Twitter, oh, he's just using this in place of his pep rallies. No. He's the president of the United States. It's his job to inform the American people of what we're doing, especially in a completely and utterly, a unique, transcendent event in history. Okay. And if he wasn't out here every day doing a press conference, people would be bitching that he's not doing a press conference every day. So all the people complaining about that shit can just fuck off, okay? And yes, I swore again. Okay. All right. Look, they asked him about what he tweeted on January 24th about how he appreciated the fact that China was doing a good job in doing their best to contain the virus that was happening in China on January 24th. And they're criticizing him for that, saying, why did you trust China then? Well, I mentioned this article from the New York Times on January 23rd. Let's read this article. Now, granted, the White House no longer reads the New York Times, but I'm sure that the WHO was in contact with the CDC and perhaps the White House. And I'm sure the White House was interested in what the World Health Organization was saying about this new virus in China that some people say the president should have been preparing months ago on. Some people say, oh, you've had 3 months. Well, it's March 21st. 2 months ago was January 21st, and on January 23rd, here's the New York Times article. Coronavirus is spreading, but World Health Organization says it's not a global emergency. The number of cases outside China is small, and the disease does not seem to be spreading within other countries. The World Health Organization. I wonder if they're important. January 23rd, by Denise Grady, New York Times. Article still up on the New York Times website, and I think it's a free one because I haven't used. Yes, important updates on coronavirus are available for free. So this article's still up. I'm surprised that they haven't put this in the special folder that they hide. January 23rd, 2020. The World Health Organization on Thursday decided not to declare the Wuhan coronavirus that's racist outbreak a global emergency, despite the spread of the dangerous respiratory infection from China. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. I meant to tell you. Even when I read these, I cannot call it that name that the New York Times called it on January 23rd. It is the virus that shall not be named by its place of origin. So let me just start over. The Wuhan Health Organization on Thursday decided not to declare the virus that shall not be named by its place of origin a global emergency, despite the spread of the dangerous respiratory infection from its place of origin to at least 5 other countries. Although the disease has a reach beyond its place of origin, the number of cases in other countries is still relatively small, and the disease, according to the World Health Organization, that's my own little ad, does not seem to be spreading within those countries, agency officials said. What agency is that? The World Health Organization. I'm sure most of the people bitching about President Trump have heard of that organization. Of more than the 800 cases now reported, the wide majority and all of the 25 deaths have been in its place of origin, according to the place of origin's officials. At this time, there is no evidence of human-to-human transmission outside its place of origin. Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, the WHO's general director, that would be the head of the World Health Organization, said in a news conference in Geneva. That doesn't mean it won't happen. Oh, okay. But make no mistake, he added. This is an emergency in its place of origin, but it has not yet become a global health emergency. What was the date of this again? January 23rd, 2020. Perhaps the next day that the president is saying that China is doing their best to contain it may have been a valid statement to make the day after this article came out. Shocker. The committee weighing the decision was divided. It was divided, though. If it was divided, maybe we should have acted on all the alarmists on that committee who didn't believe the director. Anyway, the committee weighing the decision was divided. Its chairman, Dr. Didier, that looks a little bit too much like Diddler. Anyway, Didier Hussein said during the briefing, some members felt that the course of the outbreak warranted an emergency declaration now, but others said that it was too soon to decide, citing the limited number of cases outside the country of origin that shall not be named. I'm going to add that to that when I talk about the country of origin that shall not be named, as well as the country's efforts to contain the virus. Emergency declarations can appear to single out one country as a threat to the rest of the world. Well, now we know that the country of origin that shall not be named is a threat to the rest of the world for lying about this. Where was I? Dr. Hussein said the committee also considered the potential impact of its decision on people in the country of origin that shall not be named. Yeah. You mean the ones, the government that wouldn't let anyone else come in and try to help them figure this shit out? Huh. Dr. Tedros said he would not hesitate to ask the World Health Organization to reconsider declaring an emergency even within a matter of days if more evidence emerges to prove that the outbreak poses a global threat. There will probably be more cases of the disease in other parts of the country of origin that shall not be named and other countries, and all other countries should have measures in place to detect cases, including health facilities, WHO officials said. Although several countries, including the United States, have begun screening air travelers arriving from the city that shall not be named, Dr. Tedros said that the WHO prefers exit screening for people leaving affected regions. Well, I'm sure they did a great job of that now, didn't they? There is still a lot we don't know, Dr. Tedros says. We don't know the source. We don't know how easily it spreads. We don't understand its clinical features or severity. Well, for some people, the severity is they die. Holy fuck. Should put the country of origin that shall not be named on the soundboard. Yeah, I'm going to have to add that. The new infection is caused by coronavirus. Well, we do know that from the same family that caused the epidemics of SARS and MERS, which have killed hundreds of people in dozens of countries. The first cases of the illness from the virus of which from a what's it called again? The virus. Of the city of origin that shall not be named, occurred in people who had been to a market that sold fish and a variety of live animals for consumption, and researchers think the virus came from one of those animals. But which animal is not known. The market was shut down, and it's not clear whether any of the animals or products were kept from testing. Finding the source is important, so sales of that animal and its meat can be halted. China has many such markets, and they were also the origin of SARS. Okay. Oh, did I say? Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, country that shall not be named. I did say that the country that shall not be named name. I apologize. Whew. Sorry. Okay, so anyway, this article goes on and on. But anyway, yeah. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Oh, only 5 global public health emergency declarations have been made in the past. 2009 for pandemic influenza, 2014 for polio resurgence in several countries, again in 2014 for the Ebola epidemic in West Africa, and 2016 for the Zika virus epidemic, and 2019 for an Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo. So clearly, and then, okay, so the day after this article came out, the president praised China for their efforts to contain the virus. On January 30th, the World Health Organization reversed courses and declared this a global emergency, which caused the president of the United States the very next day to suspend all travel to the United States from China. So whenever you see the words of someone saying, well, the president waited too long and the president had 3 months to prepare for this and blah, 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 I am going to put this article in the chat right now. I would right click this and put this in your bookmarks and just let them know, well, 3 months from what? From the time the WHO said that this was not a global emergency? How do you prepare for an emergency that's not a global emergency? Okay, now, all these questions that there's reporters asking, oh, you had all this time to prepare and all this and all that. I'm sorry. If it's not a global emergency on January 23rd, 2020, it takes a little time to ramp up production of items that perhaps your company doesn't already make. So some of these companies that are volunteering, God bless them for saying they're going to go out and make respirators and masks and all this other crap, but it still takes time for them to retool whatever they're going to do. The companies that already makes those things, I'm sure that their production has been ramped up like a motherfucker. Okay? But it's just, the insanity of this is just mind-boggling. It is whoa, what the hell is that? Oh, that's our thing. It's quite annoying. Wow, I lost a lot of people. A lot of people left after the press conference. Okay, that's cool. Whatever. So anyway, it is just, it's amazing to me that people just don't get this. Real quick, thank you RVA and Tyler F. and Stormy Sutherland and Chi-Town J for retweeting the show today. If you, by the way, if you got here late, please make sure you retweet the show. Hit the like button before you go if you're going to head out before I'm done. And also, the Streamlabs link's open, but I'm not so much worried about that. I know everyone has to do what they have to do to keep yourself safe. Keep yourself safe. Keep yourself, in a financial position that you can. I'm not worried about, don't worry about super chats. I'm trying to pay attention to the chat a little more during these very difficult times. And if you can, I think in the chat somewhere along the ways, there's a link for Patrice Ripley. I would much rather you help her at this point in time than me. She's going through some difficult times. She and her daughter are temporarily homeless, and I'm just trying to be able to, I think they found a place to stay just recently. Let's go in the trends. We're going to do trends real quick, and then I'm going to get out of here because I do want to see what's happening on Twitter. One of the reasons I do Twitter trends each day for you guys is I like to see what breaking news there is, maybe make a couple comments on it, and just try to figure out what people are going to be talking about later in the day, or what videos you're going to see tomorrow. And it's funny because when we do this, a lot of times we find breaking news on Twitter that we talk about, and like 1 or 2 days later, all of a sudden there's like 3 or 4 different other people making videos about it. So I hope that that is something you guys appreciate, that we learn a lot of breaking news first. You guys also put a lot of, are really great about dropping breaking news in the chat. I really, really appreciate it. Buy a Gusto Pinochet. Wash your ass. Okay. Anyway, all right, so let's check out what's trending on Twitter, and then we're going to get the hell out of Dodge. Let's do the Explore tab. I'm going to guess that coronavirus is on the header, and of course it is. Excuse me. And there's the, Lindsay told me that the Italy records 793 deaths in one day. There's also, Germany now has like 16,000 cases of coronavirus. So like, and you know, the other part of this that is driving me insane, all these people bitching about President Trump. And while I'm not a fan of President Trump, I respect President Trump. And I absolutely think that he's doing everything he can. The entire task force is doing everything they can. And if we were the only country this was happening in, then maybe I would be pissed off. But we know now that every country in the Northern Hemisphere is dealing with this right now. It is not just the United States. Italy has been ravaged by this, and they don't even have as big a population as we do. We're the 3rd largest country in the world, okay, from a population standpoint. And you're seeing 16,000 cases in Germany. You got 793 deaths in Italy yesterday. So, look, the whole world is doing, the entire Northern Hemisphere. In fact, now it's up to 183 or 180, is it 181 countries? There's only, I don't even know how many countries there are in the world. There's not many more than that. It's almost in every country in the world. And I'm still trying to figure out how it's spread to every country in the world already. There's cases in Guam. How the hell did you get a case in Guam? That means someone flew to Guam, and there might have been something on a surface, and it lasts on surfaces for a while, and then someone touched something, and now there's a case in Guam. Every U.S. state and territory have cases. So the idea that, oh, if President Trump had acted sooner, we wouldn't have this happening, is complete bullshit. It doesn't matter who the president was. Hillary Clinton's out here tweeting the other day, you know, wear the mask, Trump, wear the mask. Where's your 33,000 emails, bitch? God, shut up, Hillary. Shut up, Joe Biden. Okay, and Joe Biden. Now, Joe Biden's going to do, he just announced yesterday. Now, Joe Biden's going to do his own daily briefings to counter the presidential briefings. Really, former Vice President Joe Biden, who could barely, just make sure you remember to wear pants. But, okay, what are your briefings going to be about, Mr. Biden? Quid pro Joe? What are your briefings going to be about? What experts are going to be? And there's people on Twitter actually saying, well, you know, because the president tells so many lies, maybe Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx should go with Joe Biden every other day. Joe Biden's not the president of the United States. Joe Biden can just, you know, go wait till he could run for president of the United States. And Bernie Sanders is doing this too. He's doing like these online fireside chats about coronavirus. Hey, Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders, weren't you the two guys who, during the last presidential primaries, when every part of the country was shutting down, you guys said people should go out and vote in their primaries? Is that social distancing? Were you guys setting an example? You're the ones who were saying, well, yeah, you went along with Tom Perez, the DNC chairman. The chairman of the Democratic Party said, you know what? We're not going to postpone our 4 primaries during this time when the entire freaking country's shutting down. No, we're going to go ahead and put you out there in lines waiting to vote, or in a voting booth, or in whatever that thousands of people walk through and touched. And we're going to endanger your lives so that you can vote in our Democratic primary. Yeah, we recommend that you go out and vote. You really think I want to take advice from Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden either? Look, if the president certainly says some dumb things and things that are confusing people sometimes. Yeah, he does. But I think the fact that you told people to go out and vote in a primary after most of the country is shutting down is probably a worse thing. You told them to go against the rules of the CDC, not the rules, because we don't have rules. We're not China. We can't just weld you into your apartment. But you told them to go against the recommendations of the Center for Disease Control to go out and vote in your primaries? Are you serious? You can have your little alternate little web, whatever, briefing or whatever, but I don't care. I'm not going to be watching it. Well, no, that's not true. It might actually be good entertainment for what I do here. It might be great entertainment for all I know. Did I just go on a rant? I think that was a rant. All right, let's go into Twitter trends, and I got to get out of here because we're going to go eat some of that corned beef I cooked yesterday. Coronavirus, Italy records 796 deaths a day. Let's get to the update. Now, oh my gosh. The total number of global cases has surpassed 300,000, including over 12,000 fatalities. Over 91,000 patients are reported to have recovered. Get the latest updates from around the world. Now, here's the thing. Now, what's interesting is the number of deaths yesterday doesn't seem to have gone up as significantly as it has been in the past. The global number of cases surpassing 300,000 has, but I'm guessing that's really a function of more testing. Now, for example, they were talking yesterday in the press conference. If you didn't watch it, I listened to some of that yesterday, and they said that they're doing all these testing now, and they're getting all these different labs, private and public, and the CDC, and all these people are doing testing. But what's happening is 90% of those tests are coming back negative. So that's a good thing because they're not even testing everybody. So that's a good thing. But there's more testing going on around the world. So the number of cases could go up just exponentially while the number of deaths may only rise at a slower pace because we know that more people are getting tested. So we're catching them, and like I said, most people recover from this. So the fact that 91,000 patients are reported to have recovered has also risen significantly since yesterday. More than 10,000 cases reported in New York State, though. That's huge. Italy reports 793 deaths in 24 hours. UK pubs, restaurants, and gyms told to shut down. Spain's coronavirus deaths surpassed 1,300. Yeah, Spain is now the new. Spain and Italy is really the epicenter of where the deaths are happening. Mainland China reports an increase in imported cases. Oh, this Chinese government is amazing. They are so full of shit. Can you smell? Can you smell the propaganda in that one? Listen to that. Listen to the language again. Mainland China reports an increase in imported cases. Remember the other day they were saying that they are not seeing any new cases, which is bullshit. I don't believe them at all. Unless in China, they've been using this chloroquine, whatever, the couple drug cocktail. And remember, we said that there has been results. I wonder if they're using it there and it's working. We don't have any, like I said, they're going to use this in the state of New York and try to use it not only as a potential, to save people, but also as a kind of a clinical trial and see if it works. And I hope it does. God, would that be awesome if they could find a way to cure this? But the fact that China says an increase in imported cases, good. Thank you, Augusto Pinochet, Mr. President. You have the perfect question. Who the fuck is flying to China these days? Who is flying to China? Yeah. And Lindsay, you're correct. X'd it out. Who the fuck is flying to China? Okay, continuing. Pakistan confirms 720 cases, suspends international flights. Colombia and Bolivia declared national quarantines. Nigeria closes all airports and suspends all international flights for 30 days. Thank you. More countries are doing it. Oh, who was the country that started doing that? That would be the United States. Let's see. BNO, the number of confirmed cases of coronavirus worldwide has surpassed 300,000, an increase of 50,000 in one day, but that's because there's more testing worldwide. That's not an indicator that it is necessarily expanding that way. It's just that now we're testing more people throughout the world, so we're going to find more cases quickly. By the way, hi, Kyler, and yes, I'm ranting like a ranter. Anyway, so yeah, new deaths. Look at this. I mean, China, 3,255 deaths. Italy, 4,825. Spain, 1,378. Anyway, all right. My wife is explaining to my mother-in-law who I voted for in the 2016 election. I'm voting for him next time, though. Sorry, I shouldn't have done that, but she's stressing out. Anyway, all right. Let's see. Here's some countries. Iran, 966 new cases, 123 new deaths. Belgium, 558 new cases, 30 deaths. Austria, 278 new cases. Israel, 178 new cases. Malaysia, 153 new cases, 1 new death. Thailand, 89. Philippines, 77. And the coronavirus map. Now, this is not an accurate coronavirus map, but you can see the dots are all over the Northern Hemisphere. Every country in the Northern Hemisphere, they don't have the one in, I guess it's 5 or more, but every country in the Northern Hemisphere is seeing new cases. So, and the increases on these cases, 172%, 62%, 300%, 259, 280, 726%. That's because we're getting, again, the percentage of individual cases, I'm not so concerned about. That is a function of testing, okay? It's probably more important that people actually get the... who are recover and then the testing again. We could have had again. They have a case in China that the first case was a month before they reported. So anyway, so it's good that now the world is starting to catch on, and maybe just suspending flights. Non-essential travel is a good idea, and it's terrible for the airlines. It's terrible for business. But, maybe if the whole world decides, you know what, hey, maybe we just have a worldwide pause and chill for a few weeks. Hopefully we can get this shit under control. All right. Let's see. 75 million Americans told to stay home as testing continues. Yeah, that's good. All right, moving on to the rest of Twitter trends, though. Let me click the More tab here, and here we go. Trending number 1 still is Love Thy Neighbor. And the same top ones look to be up there, and we kind of already went through this. I'm going to scroll down farther. Love Thy Neighbor, mental illness is kicking my ass while I'm locked up. And he gave his Venmo number here. Lots of people throwing out their Cash App and Venmos and PayPals. But, and I'm sure there are people who really need help. We're going to hold off on that a little bit. But anyway, some of us have never been that socially active, but they don't know that. They also don't know about viruses, everyday necessities, or that everybody is out of work right now. They are completely defenseless. We're all in the same boat. if you can, even just calling people and making sure they're okay is probably a great idea. All right, we're going to move on into the second thing. New Jersey governor is trending. Why could that be? New Jersey governor Phil Murphy orders residents to stay home, non-essential retail businesses to close by Saturday night. It seems to be a little bit behind the curve, but good. It goes into effect 9 p.m. Eastern time Saturday. I know in Minnesota we did this starting Friday, I believe, because my wife and I were in a restaurant when it happened. Just happens to be me and Lady Boomer got to eat. We have tons of food at home, though. It's funny, though. I think the funniest thing that my wife said was like, because we don't go out to eat that often. We do once in a while, but, we're realizing almost how little effect this has on our life because we don't do that much anyway, except when we travel. We travel a lot, though, just little short trips to little places, little towns and stuff like that just to see cool things. But we haven't done that yet this year because it's just now springtime, and we don't usually do that until springtime comes. So hopefully by the time this all the crap's done, we can go back to our normal life. All right, so that's why the New Jersey governor is trending. I don't think I need to go through that tab anymore. Let's go to the next one. Kenny Rogers, the musician, has passed away. Country music legend Kenny Rogers has died at age 81. Rogers' family announced that the Country Music Hall of Famer passed away on Friday. Rogers passed away peacefully at home from natural causes under the care of hospice and surrounded by his family. His family said in a statement, a 6-time Country Music Award winner and 3-time Grammy Award winner, Rogers dominated the pop and country charts in the 1970s and 80s with hits including The Gambler, Lady, and Islands in the Stream. He had a duet we did with Dolly Parton. And we were making the joke this morning, and I heard it on Monkey in the Morning too. Oh my God, they killed Kenny. But Kenny Rogers I think he overall was a good dude. He really, his songs were mostly stories, and he was a great storyteller, musician. Although one of my favorite songs, probably, in fact, if you know anything about Kenny Rogers, put your favorite Kenny Rogers song in the chat. Mine is Lady. Which ironically was not written by Kenny Rogers. That was written by Lionel Richie. And so every time I heard that song when it first came out, I think it was like somewhere in the early 80s when that song came out. And I heard that song and I go, there's something weird about this song. It kind of sounds like something Lionel Richie would write or sing. And then I found out it was written by Lionel Richie, and I'm like, oh my God, I was right. Anyway, put your favorite Kenny Rogers song in the chat if you have one. If you don't know who Kenny Rogers is, well, you can do whatever you want. I'm not concerned. All right. Moving on. Let's see here. We've got all right. Rest in peace, Kenny Rogers. Quarantine life hashtag is trending. Quarantine life, what is that? Some of us like staying indoors. We just don't like the fact something is making us do it. Ding! Ain't that the truth? It's funny because, we don't go out that much. And now all we want to do is go out to eat and we just can't. Anyway, Gambler's a good song. Thank you, Roland Pirate Pete, for paying attention. Rhonda, my dad learned to make a cake. Quarantine life. Oh, go ahead, Dad. Way to go. Here's Dad making a cake. All right. Look at that. Way to go, Pops. Nicely done. Let's see. Quarantine life. Quarantine, watch this. This life hack video is life-changing. Retweet. Check this out. Okay, let's check. Okay, well, let's watch the life-changing life hack. Here we go. Is there music on it? I don't know. Can you guys hear that? You can see it, right? Oh, no, we're not going to do the music. Oh! Okay, I got an idea. Hang on. Before I do that. F for Kenny Rogers. I plan to go to local places, try to avoid chain stuff. Got to keep the look. You know what? That's a good idea. A lot of restaurants, for example, here in the Twin Cities, they can't have service inside the restaurant, but they say that you can keep your restaurant open for carryout or curbside service or delivery. And so we've got a couple favorite restaurants. This one Chinese dude who has a restaurant right up the street. We've been helping support his business by buying food from him, and he really appreciates it. Plus, his business was down anyway because some people are just stupid and see China and they're like, "Oh no, coronavirus!" And like, fuck off, you dumbasses. Anyway, let's go back to this life hack. I know I don't have any music going, but here we go. So, okay. Well, that's a cute idea. All right. Tension rod. And, oh, look, you can hang your chips. A chip hanger. Now that is cool. How about this? Oh, what are they going to do? They're going to wrap some foil around it and then put 2 chopsticks there. What if the chopsticks go through the foil though? That one didn't excite me. Okay, putting your that's a lot of effort just to keep your bags. Well, no, that is actually a cool idea. Pea soup. Let's see. Flatten it out. Oh, see, I flatten out stuff like that in freezer. Are they going to freeze this? Oh, putting in magazine holders. That's smart. Okay. Damn. These are pretty cool life hacks. Okay, the vegetable drawer. Oh, I might have to... oh, dude. You know what? I'm going to... what is this? Oh, it's a... okay, that's a silverware thing. What are they doing there? Let dry. They glued that in there. Oh. Well, no, we already do that in our drawer, though. We already have a... that's just a... that's nothing great. Freezer burn? How do you do... what is this? Keep moisture out. I don't know what that happened there. I have no idea. Okay, here's a juice carton. Oh. Yeah, that I don't care. That last one was dumb too. But the pasta, yeah, I do that with pasta sauces too. We flatten them, then freeze them, then we transfer them to the other freezer. Anyway, new segment. No, we're just doing Twitter trends. All right, and then finally we'll do one more quarantine life. Here we go. I just find out my daily normal life is called quarantine. Introvert. Okay, never mind. Moving on. What else we got on Twitter trends today? The hashtag when this is all over. Before, okay, give me your best in the chat. Your best when this is all over. Let's see if there's any good ones here. I hope people understand the importance of universal health care, child care, and basic income when this is all over. No, not at all. You know what? No. You know what? When this is all over, I hope people understand the importance of putting money away, savings away if you can, even if it's just a little bit a week. If you put $10 a week away, that's $520 a year. Now, does it sound like much? But had you done that for 3 years up till now, $1,500, could that help you out right now? No. Learn the importance of saving. Learn the importance of, oh my God, universal health care. They have universal health care in Italy. Yay! They have universal health care in Spain. Yay! They have universal health care in China. And yet, it's an emergency. Anyway, when this is all over, we'll probably hear a poignant or chilling social commentary narration by Rod Serling. Okay. When this is over, wait, when you say all this, all what exactly? I mean, this has a lot of moving parts. Yeah, it sure does. When this is all over, I can finally take my hamster out to a proper dinner. Say what? What the hell is that? That is crazy. All right. All right, when this is all over, we need to have a global party and establish a global holiday that praises healthcare workers and all the workers, IT, medical scientists, truckers, delivery drivers, etc., who kept society running. Hey, I'm all for that. When this is all over, I'm gonna have a beer. All right, moving on. Trump lies, people dies. Ah, yes, the hashtag warriors are out in force. Let's see here. Trump, no one could have seen this coming. No one could have predicted this would happen. No one's ever heard of a thing like this. All scientists and pandemic experts on Earth. I'm going to reply to this. Da, 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 da. I'm pretty sure I have. I have this picture ready. Let's see here. Let's see. Where is it? I thought I had it here. Okay. Just keep this date in mind when y'all are thinking about this. When anyone says something like this, January 23rd, 2020. I just wish the press would treat Trump with the same disrespect he shows them. When he calls them horrible reporters, say you're a horrible president. When he says be quiet, they shout back, no, you be quiet. You work for the American people now. I wish he was a little more diplomatic with the press, but I don't mind him smacking down stupid questions either. Trump is lying. Journalists in China sent us emails about the virus in December. A virus when you were asymptomatic is up for 24 days while contagious. China sent us emails about the virus in December? Who are you, Hillary Clinton? What the fuck are you talking about? January 23rd, 2020. New York Times. World Health Organization. That's the date. January 23rd, 2020. Here, we're just going to copy. We're going to paste. I'll probably get blocked. You know what? I had never really gotten like one of those rage blocks on Twitter until this shit started happening. And I would hilarious. He crippled the farmers and had to bail them out. He tanked the stock market and had to bail them out. He tanked the stock market? When did that happen? He tanked the stock market? He lied to us for months about coronavirus. What's he going on about? Oh my God. You know what? Yeah, he said those things and some of those things were incorrect. I suppose you just have to look at the actual timeline of when some things are happening. If there were invisible sharks at the beach, nobody would go in the water. More importantly, nobody would be telling us to keep taking beach days. Well, when did Trump tell you to take beach days? Sorry, don't remember. The most fucking coronavirus disinformation comes directly from the White House. Be vigilant, misinformation, rumors, and factuaries. Go get trusted sources for information about COVID-19. Y'all are, it's, you know what? It's just amazing. I'm sorry. I can't do it. Barry Larkin's trending. What? Barry Larkin, the baseball great Hall of Fame 2012. Y'all need to stop trending these 50-something ex-athletes you're watching on ESPN Classic. Today I thought Barry Larkin had the COVID. I'm really tired of hearing about celebrities who get it anyway. So good. Okay, let's talk favorite Reds of all time. Give you your top 5. Mine in no particular order. Barry Larkin, Adam Dunn, Chris Sabo, Johnny Cueto, and Joey Votto. Holy shit, how could you not have Pete Rose? I know he got kicked out of baseball for cheating, but damn, Pete Rose is the greatest yeah, why not? I'm going to say he's the greatest Red of all time. I think Ken Griffey was in the top 5 for sure. Barry Larkin for sure. He was good. Oh my God. First of all, everybody loves Barry Larkin. I'm a Mets fan. I can tell you that. Okay, good. Yeah, everyone does like Barry Larkin, but I have no idea why Barry Larkin's trending for real. Maybe he's on ESPN right now. Oh my gosh. Islands. Oh, okay. Islands in the Stream, that's the song by Kenny Rogers. I'm sure a lot of his songs are trending right now. Steve Martin is trending. Why is Steve Martin trending? How is it that Steve Martin, without a word, in sweatpants, made me feel better than 25 celebs making up in a makeup singing song? Okay, let's see what Steve Martin does here. He's a virtuoso banjo player, by the way. All right, every nod your head along. And this is why Steve Martin is trending. It's, you know what? I'm not a big banjo fan, but this is, it's very calming, isn't it? Strangely calming, I should say. That's what I was trying to think of. Absolutely much more calming than that abomination of the stars singing Imagine. You know? Oh, that was just so self-absorbed. Anyway, moving on. Azithromycin. That's one of the drugs that... okay, hydrochlorous... Okay, he spelled it wrong. That's probably why. Okay, and here's some data. A French study has demonstrated evidence that the combination of hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin are highly effective in treating COVID-19. The patients enrolled in the study showed complete viral eradication around the 5th day of treatment. So, there's already a French study. Now, you know that, and they're doing trials in the United States, but you know how we have so much more red tape. Here's Trump saying hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin taken together have a real chance to be one of the biggest game changers in the history of medicine. The FDA has moved mountains. Thank you. Hopefully they will both works better with a, hang on a second here. Hopefully they will both, H works better with A, International Journal of Antimicrobial Agents, be put into use immediately. People are dying. Move fast, and God bless everyone. And of course, let's see. This is this some reporter from? Nope, he's okay. Liberal media consistently misconstrues President Trump's comments. Context is everything. Here's the full exchange. Oh, okay, that's from that when Peter Alexander asked his stupid questions. Thank you, Mr. President, for always being there for us and working 24/7 to keep us safe. Okay, this. I don't want to go into Trump. I was going to talk about that's why that particular drug is trending. New French study. This one's okay. Okay, so this. Okay, here's a genius. Okay, maybe. Hydroxychloroquine is an anti-malarial. Malaria is a disease caused by Plasmodium transmitted by the bite of an infected mosquito. It's a virus transmitted by a mosquito. Azithromycin is an antibiotic. Antibiotics are effective against bacteria. The coronavirus is a virus. Somebody help me here. Well, let's see. Of course, that's something Donald Trump retweeted. Oh, I see. Ted Lieu. Oh, great. Ted Lieu, the whatever, California congressional person. For anyone who read the tweet from Donald Trump saying hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin can be a game changer for COVID-19 if approved by the FDA, please don't take them together without consulting a doctor. They're both only available by prescription. The drug combination is not currently approved and can kill you. Yes. So can an there was a whole article about this in the MSN, Microsoft News, whatever it is, Microsoft Network website, saying that 2 grams of hydroxychloroquine can kill you. Well, that's because 2 grams of hydroxychloroquine is more than twice what a prescribed dose would be. Twice the amount of insulin in a diabetic patient could kill you. Dr. Edsel Salvana, please don't take hydroxychloroquine plus azithromycin for COVID-19 unless your doctor prescribes it. Oh, brilliant. Both drugs affect the QT interval of your heart. It could lead to arrhythmias and sudden death, especially if you're taking other meds and have a heart condition. Well, God, no. You probably shouldn't take any prescription drugs without a prescription. Good idea. Thank you for that brilliance. Oh, and here we go. Let's see here. Remember when President Barack Obama tweeted about a random drug being a potential cure for Ebola? Neither do I. And that is kind of the point. Do you remember when Barack Obama was dealing with a worldwide pandemic and was trying to give people hope? Oh, wait. Wasn't his whole campaign something about hope or some shit like that? Palmer Report. Donald Trump can't spell his own name, but he can spell azithromycin. Palmer Report, another one of those TDS outlets. Since azithromycin is trending, let's be upfront about something. We don't know yet whether or not hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin do anything of real value for patients with coronavirus infection. Well, apparently there is some anecdotal evidence, and the FDA is now studying the same thing that drug agencies in China and South Korea and Australia and France and Germany are all studying at the same time. And the president was pretty clear that they are in the working in the approval process, and they're studying it. In fact, Dr. Fauci also mentioned it. Oh, and here's another expert. Azithromycin has no effect on viruses. It works on bacteria. And hydroxyquinine? That's not even the same fucking thing. Is for the malaria parasite and also does not kill viruses. There has never been a cure for a coronavirus. You've never heard of a cure for the common cold. You are not a doctor. You're right, he's not. He didn't pull this out of his asshole. They've been doing testing in other places. And in fact, there's been someone in the United States doing tests on the hydrochloroquine. And they're going to find out, I guess. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But they seem to have been finding cases where it has. Now, we don't know why, but they're testing it. Is that okay? Is that okay if they test it? Is that okay? Hang on a second. I gotta take this. I'll be right back, and we'll finish this up. There we go. All right, I'm back. All right. Okay, enough of azithromycin. Just, you know what? I bet 90% of this hashtag are people taking a shit on the president, which kind of tends to happen. Oh my God. Yes, we do. Please don't. More people, please don't take it unless the doctor prescribes it. Right. You can't get it unless you have a prescription. Holy shit. Some work on my colleagues and I did on the safety of azithromycin in older pneumonia patients. Oh, by God. You know what? Obviously, some people are praising it, but whatever. That's why that's trending. Moving on. Omari Hardy. I don't know who that is. That would be America's Cruel. Oh, interesting. Let's see what this is. America's cruelty and nepotism is on full display in this video. The city of Lake Worth Beach refused to hold a meeting to address the corona crisis, allowed residents to have their utilities disconnected for non-payment, and tried to squash dissent from Commissioner Omari Hardy. Okay, let's watch this. I mean, let's see here.
There's always things that pop up that we can do better on, and I call the question.
I'm sorry, that's not how this works. We each have an opportunity to speak 5 minutes.
I thought we did.
Yeah, the question's been called.
I'm sorry. And that's not how calling the question works. You need a second and you need to vote on it.
Then I have a second for calling the question.
Are you telling me that you're going to keep me from talking right now?
You've talked all evening.
Look here. You're calling me disrespectful because I've interrupted people, but this gentleman has turned off people's lights in the middle of a global health pandemic. That's what that gentleman did.
Point of order.
And you think I'm disrespectful for interrupting?
Point of order.
This gentleman has had the ability to do any number of things. We could have banned large gatherings. We could have closed the beach. We could have put a moratorium on utility shutoffs.
I recessed.
Also not within your power, and the attorney has held that that's true.
I recessed the meeting.
You came up with new rules at the beginning of the meeting, and then you didn't even want to follow the rules that you came up with.
And you took advantage.
This is a banana republic is what you're turning this place into with your so-called leadership.
Does a recess mean that we will be...
Yes.
Camera on that?
I don't care anything about this.
Camera on that?
I don't care anything about this. We should have been talking about this last week.
We
cut off people's utilities this week and made them pay what could have been their last check to us to turn their lights on in a global health pandemic. But you don't care about that and you didn't want to meet. But every other year you go around and beg people for their votes.
Can we explain
but
the
you
recess?
care more about your relationship with that guy than you care about the relationship with the people who don't go to work in this building.
Order, you are done. You're done. You're done. Disrespect.
It's disrespectful is what you've done to the working people in the city.
I didn't do anything.
All right.
You failed to act.
I didn't do anything.
When you're a leader, you failed to act. You said you didn't do anything. You failed to act. When you had an opportunity.
Party for State House.
I don't care anything about that. You think anybody cares?
All right. You know what? I would like to give a round of applause for this guy. Hello, Johnny Hellcat and Chicago Mike. You know what?
Can we do better? There's always things that pop up that we can do better
on. Good for this guy. Public service should be passionate about the community they serve. In a crisis such as this, losing power would be devastating. If I lived in Florida, Commissioner Omari Hardy would have my vote. You know what? I'm going to bet you the people of that town are going to be cheering for that guy. Love this. I'm putting this. I'm going to find somebody up here. You know what? I don't know anything about this town, what they were talking about, but that dude deserves a retweet. But I don't like Benjamin Dixon. Civility is a tool of the powerful to maintain their power at the expense of the vulnerable. That's a quote from Martin Luther King. Here's a man to support Commissioner Omari Hardy running for Florida State Representative, District 88. The white-haired woman is the mayor, who herself said did nothing. Rigged meeting. Yeah. So anyway, good for this guy. You know what? I have great respect for the gentleman. Oh, link. Oh, shoot. Here, hang on. A link URL. And I don't care if this guy is a progressive, a conservative, or whatever. power to this dude. Here, let's here, I'll give you this link right here. Good for him. You know, I'm sorry, regardless of what your political affiliations are, sometimes you just got to have some compassion for the people that you're representing. So good for that guy. Moving on. Dezer, something about the NFL, probably. Let's see. Pierre Dezer had 50 tackles, 11 pass breakups, 3 interceptions in just 11 starts last season. He completely locked down Hopkins in the playoffs a year ago. Puzzling move. The Colts are releasing Pierre Dezer. I'm not sure if that's how you say his name. I'm not a Colts person, but anyway, best available cornerbacks left. Pierre Dezer is one of them. All right, that's NFL news. If any of you are Colts fans, coward of the county. That's another Kenny Rogers song. Also Lucille. So a lot of, like I said, Kenny Rogers songs are trending today because Kenny Rogers passed away. Lake Worth, I believe that's the same county that Pierre, what's his name? Pierre somebody. Lake Worth, Florida. Coronavirus, Florida. Lake Worth Beach City Commission meeting turns ugly. Good for Commissioner Amari Hardy. Like I said, I don't know anything about the dude, but his righteous anger was felt and should be rewarded. Good for him. And I don't care what his political, what's the word? I don't care what his political views are. Good for him. That should have been good for him. Whatever. All right. Andrew Sullivan. Oh, what does Andrew Sullivan have to say? Oh, Barack Obama tweeting to Andrew Sullivan, who says how to survive a plague out of New York Magazine. Sully Dish witnessed the impact of HIV/AIDS on the LGBT community in the early stages of that devastating disease. You know what's amazing? Now, Barack Obama has anyone heard from him during all of this? I think he's been appropriately quiet. Because now let's see. I don't know anything. I'm interested in this article he's sharing, but he's sharing an article by Andrew Sullivan. Now, Andrew Sullivan is a kind of a never Trump kind of guy, but also Andrew Sullivan's a pretty good writer. He's a conservative gay man. I don't know, but I haven't seen a lot of his writing lately. It's quite possible that by the end of all this, almost every American will know someone who has died. A relative, a friend, an old high school classmate. The names will pop up and migrate through Facebook as the weeks go by. In a year's time, Facebook will duly remind you of the grief or shock you experienced. The names of the sick will appear to be randomly selected, the ones you expected and the ones you really didn't, the famous and the obscure, the vile and the virtuous. And you will feel the same pang of shock each time someone you know turns out to have fallen ill. You'll wake up each morning and check to see if your persistent cough or headache or tightness in the lungs. This is plague living. Oh, good Lord. Here's my problem. Okay. I guess, baby, I don't know if I want the doomsday stuff right now. I would like to get through this and maybe write the fanfic or whatever. But anyway, the distancing things we reflexively do. Oh, well, he was a smoker. She was a diabetic, you know. They were in Italy in February. It become a little bit harder as times goes by and the numbers mount. And as the numbers mount and the randomness of it all sinks in, no, this is not under control. And no, we are not in control because we never are. And this will change us. It must. But all plagues change society and culture, reversing some trends while accelerating others, shifting consciousness far and wide with consequences we won't discover for years or decades. The one thing we know about epidemics is that at some point they will end. The one thing we don't know is who we will be then. I know that I was a different man at the end of the plague of AIDS than I was at the beginning, just as so many gay men and many others were. You come face to face with mortality and the randomness of fate, and you are changed. You have a choice to submit to fear and go under, or to live with the virus and do what you can. And the living with it while fighting it is what changes you over time. It requires more than a little nerve and more than a little steel. Plague living dispenses with the unnecessary, lays bare whom you can trust and whom you can't, and reveals what matters. I know also that the AIDS epidemic, more than any other single factor, transformed the self-understanding of gay men and lesbians, opened the eyes of our fellow citizens, and revolutionized the world of gay rights. It showed us with blinding clarity, what we had hitherto not seen, the ubiquity and humanity and dignity of homosexuals. And having seen this, we are all changed. Within a couple of decades, out of the ashes, we had marriage equality, a new world of visibility and toleration. Plagues destroy so much, but through the devastation, they also can build and renew. I was watching the movie 1917 the other night, and there's a scene in which the protagonist, a British soldier, is trying to navigate a vacated, devastated town in no man's land at night. He makes his way through the shattered urban wasteland where German soldiers are still hiding, but from time to time a flare goes up, a light suddenly floods the scene, and there's no hiding. Everything is clear for a moment, clearer than it was in the daylight. Every cranny in the ruins, every quivering rat appears suddenly in sharp contrast, and then disappears again as the flare falls from the sky. But in an instant, you see a whole new vista, and you orient yourself. You see where you are. Like wars, plagues can make us see where we are, shake us into a new understanding of the world, reshape our priorities, and help us judge what really matters and what actually doesn't. Testing kits matter. Twitter, not so much. Politically, who knows? Much will depend on the skills of the politicians grasping this moment for their various ends. But a lot is at stake, and I suspect that those who think COVID-19 all but kills Donald Trump's re-election prospects are being, as usual, too optimistic. Oh, Sully. Oh, Sully. Yes, yeah, 14. Yeah, no, yeah. I guarantee there were no articles like this during the H1N1 crisis when we did, as Lindsay points out, lost 14 to 20,000 Americans. National crises, even when handled at this level of incompetence and deceit, can over time galvanize public support for a national leader, as Trump instinctually finds a way to identify the virus as foreign. He will draw on these lizard brain impulses, and in a time of fear, offer the balm of certainty to his cult and beyond. It's the final bonding, blind support for the leader, even at the risk of your own sickness and death. And in emergencies, quibbling, persistent political opposition is always the defense, and often unpopular. It requires pointing out bad news in desperate times, and that, though essential, is rarely popular. So this is a screed on Fox News. Now I know why the former president shared this. And that's fine. I'm going to read the rest of this, but I'm not going to spend it here because, I actually going to watch. Watching Fox News operate in real time in ways Orwell described so brilliantly in 1984, we had always been at war with East Asia. I felt that it was a pandemic long before it was called a pandemic. You'd be a fool not to see the potential for the Republican right to use this plague for whatever end they want. Really? Andrew. Is the media and the Democrats, I know that's redundant, using this plague for an end? Because we sure are being, what's the term they like to use all the time? gaslighted into believing that we knew this. We knew this about this months ago. They keep saying we knew about this months ago. January 23rd, 2020. January 23rd, 2020. Sometimes I think we need to rethink our relationship with China. Not the Chinese people. Not the Chinese people. Not Chinese people who live in other parts of the world. Not Chinese Americans. Americans who are of Chinese descent. Not Chinese Americans, but Americans who are of Chinese descent. Not Americans of Asian descent. But China, the country and its government, is what I'm talking about. If Trump's moves to the left of Democrats and handing out big non-means tested cash payments and provides a stimulus far bigger than Obama's, no Republican will cavil. I don't know what he means. Cavil? I have to look that up. And since no sane person wants the war on COVID-19 to fail, we will have to wish that the president succeed. Oh, so Andrew Sullivan, this is a fascinating sentence. So only because people want the war on COVID-19 to fail, don't want the war on COVID-19 to fail, we will have to wish that the president succeed? You mean you wouldn't want that otherwise? You wouldn't want the president to succeed otherwise, Andrew? This article was going so well until you started getting into the politics of it. So you don't want the president to succeed. That's a very interesting statement, except for the fact that no sane person wants the war on COVID-19 to fail. We will have to wish that the president succeed. Pulling this off as an opposition party while winning back the White House will require a political deftness I don't exactly see in abundance among today's Democrats. Good! I say good, Andrew. Are you a former Republican now, Andrew? Because you used to be a Republican. I can't remember if you changed your party, officially changed your party affiliation. You may have. I don't know. Not that it matters. You could be a David Frum Republican or an Anna Navarro Republican or who's that moron at the New York Times? What's her name? I'll think of it. The Jennifer Rubin Republican. Whatever. On the other hand, even if further incompetence or failure on Trump's part could finally maybe puncture the cult, oh, such choice words, and deliver the White House to Biden and the Congress to Democrats, and the huge sums now being proposed by even the GOP shore up the economy and the stock market at a time of massive debt, as well as the stark failures of our public health planning. So should we, now that this has happened yearly, worldwide, always be planning for something like this? Because this is unprecedented, Andrew. Could make an activist government agenda much more politically palatable to Americans. You never want a serious crisis go to waste, as Ron Emanuel once put it. And if a public health catastrophe doesn't bring home the need for effective universal health care, what could? Well, let's look at the examples in countries that have universal health care and see how that helped in this situation. It didn't. Every country in the world is going through this, whether they have universal health care or not. Let's find out how this works out before we start thinking of ways to destroy the economy even more than this virus has. It's my personal opinion, but you know what? I'm not always right. But that is my personal opinion, sir. The virus is also an opportunity for the left to move away from its unpopular woke identity obsessions towards a case for structural economic change fitting for the scale of the epidemic. Well, good luck with that. I don't know if that's going to happen. They're going to double down. Remember, can't call it the Wuhan virus. That's racist. Maybe our comparative loneliness saved us some lives this time, and this place social distancing will permanently and tragically entrench an American way of life that has already stripped so many of community and connection. That's more my fear. I just want to go have a block party when this is over. That, you know what? When whatever this is over, that hashtag we looked at earlier, I just want to have a block party with my neighbors and say, hey man, nice to meet you. Let's do this more often. Let's have a barbecue for the whole neighborhood. That's what I want to do. For the weeks and months ahead, we'll be spending much and much more time at home and communicating entirely virtually. There will be abruptly less work to do and less money coming in, and marriages under the acute stress of unending cohabitation. We will retreat into our online worlds where viruses only affect computers and withdraw from neighbors when we could do with coming together. Online delivery will replace restaurants. Amazon will continue to displace local retail outlets. Packages will just be left on the doorstep. No human interaction required. Our society will dispense inward, and the loneliness will be at times intense. And I think there's a good time for a PSA to go meet your neighbors. That's what I think. During the AIDS epidemic, those of us in the thick of it grew closer, caring for the sick and each other, hugging and supporting and bonding and just showing up where we needed. Or we get together in groups to remind ourselves we weren't alone. This time, that kind of physical solidarity and comfort is impossible because with the virus, we cannot touch. Hammer time. Sorry, I was thinking can't touch this and it said hammer time. Never mind. Others without risk of infection. It's now been 2 weeks since I got a hug. Don't you have a significant other, Andrew? I thought you did. Never mind. And those weeks may become months. What will we do to cheer ourselves? How do we have sex without fear of infection? Oh, Andrew, you, so maybe okay, this is rude, but maybe Andrew just needs to get laid. I don't know. Good will happen too. Surely it will. The silence in the streets portends something new. The other day I realized I'd been texting a lot less and calling a lot more. I wanted to make sure my friends and family were okay, and I needed to see their faces and hear their voices to be reassured. As we withdraw from each other in the flesh, we may begin to appreciate better what we had until so recently. Friendship and love made manifest by being together. Simple gifts like a shared joint. A head resting on your shoulder, a hand squeezed, a toast raised. And in this sudden stop, we will also hear the sounds of nature as our economic machine pauses for a moment and the contest for status and fame and money is canceled for just a while. All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone, Pascal said. Well, we'll be able to test that now, won't we? These weeks of confinement can be seen also, it seems to me, as weeks of a national retreat, a chance to reset and rethink our lives, to ponder their fragility. I learned one thing in my 20s and 30s in the AIDS epidemic: living in a plague is just as intensified way of living. It merely unveils the radical uncertainty of life that is already here and puts it in far sharper focus. We will all die one day, and we will almost all get sick at some point in our lives. None of this makes sense on its own, especially the dying part. The trick, as the great religions teach us, is counterintuitive. Not to seize control, but to gain some balance and even serenity in absorbing what you can't. There may be moments in this great public silence when we learn and relearn this lesson, because we will need to relearn it. As I'm discovering in this surreal flashback to a way of living I once knew, plague living is almost seasonal for humans, like the spring, which insists on arriving. All right, that wasn't all bad, but, you know, I just don't agree with some things, but hey, it's all good. It's all good. All right, that's why Andrew Sullivan is trending, and Barack Obama has decided to feature it. Okay, finally, let's finish out. All right, Jatavius Brown. The trends have changed a little bit. Jeffree Star approved is trending number 1 now. Oh, good God. Do I click it? How long have I been doing this? Holy shit. Am I going on 3 hours now? Ooh, 3 hours and 15 minutes. And there's only 8 people left. I've bored you all to death, haven't I? You probably got shit to do. It's a Saturday. All right, well, since there's only 8 of you here, let's just find out what the hell Jeffree Star did, because now I'm curious as fuck. Jeffree Star approved. Here we go. Hello, Jeffree Star. I'm a vet assistant that took in to a foster who tested positive for parvo. Unfortunately, he passed away this AM. I don't have a Cash App, but I was wondering if you would be able to help me with his bill. Any little bit helps. Jeffree Star poop. Okay, Jeffree Star apparently has said something about he's gonna give people money. I do not ask for money. I just want to say that what you do is amazing. We're all in deep shit now, and you try to help. You're the best, Jeffree. Stay awesome. Apparently, Jeffree Star has told people he's going to give them money if you put Jeffree Star approved. And honestly, Jeffree, I don't know. Good for him. You know what? I'm not a fan of Jeffree Star, but if he's willing to help people, and that's pretty cool. All right. Not my type, not my style, but good for Jeffree Star. All right, guys, I got to go. That was the extended version of a White House press conference with the extended daily Twitter trends and all that shit that I do on a normal basis when I'm here on the Morning Night Live. But, you know, normally I'm here Monday through Friday, 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central, 2 p.m. GMT for those people who are in other parts of the world who like to listen to me babble and rant. So thanks for being here, everybody. I got to go. And if you made it through this whole thing, God love you. If you're still here, God love you. To those 8 people who are still here, you're awesome. All right, I got to go. My name's PDawg Knight, and I am out of here. Goodbye. Hey, this is PDawg Knight, and thank you for watching today on the PDawg Knight channel. If you have an observation or remark you'd like to make about this video or my channel, I absolutely welcome you to write it in the comment section down below. I really look forward to hearing from you. And before you go, if you like what you saw but you're not already subscribed, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and definitely click that bell that pops up afterward so you'll be notified when I post new videos or when we go live. I broadcast my live show, The Morning Night Live, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. A special thank you to all supporters of this channel who share our videos on social media and who make donations through the Streamlabs link, which is also in the description down below. Thanks again, and until next time, I'm PDawg Knight, and I'm out of here.